From the high desert and the great American Southwest, I bid you all good evening or good morning, depending on your location, time zone-wise. From the Tahitian and Hawaiian Islands in the west, east to the Caribbean and the U.S. Virgin Islands, south to South America, north to Santa Country as whole, this is Coast to Coast AM. I'm Art Bell. Okay, I promised Dannion Brinkley, and we're going to deliver. In 1975, a friend said of Dannion Brinkley that he was a lean, mean fighting machine, just returned to the U.S. from a reconnaissance mission in Nicaragua. Friendly country then, huh? Anyway, while talking on the phone with a boyhood friend, a bolt of lightning ran down the telephone wires, striking him in the neck. Thousands of bolts of electricity went down his spine, traveling through the bottoms of his seat, into the nails in the heel of his shoes, which there immediately welded themselves to the nails in the shoes nailed into the floor. So it all became one. That's what grounded him, kept him from virtually exploding. The lightning picked him up, threw him across the room. He opened his eyes once and then died. The next 28 minutes, he had a NDE, near-death experience, which included a full-light review. That must have been awful. A meeting with a celestial being of some sort, the revealing of several visions that would occur prior to the year 2004, 96 out of 117 of which have already come true. Sussy was sent back with a mission. That's in quotes. The mission is better than what we have in Bosnia, is put together health centers that will help people facing death find wellness and assist people in managing the ever-increasing stress in our world's future, or what I call the quickening. Here's two now near-death experiences, profoundly as you can imagine they would, changed his life. So, coming up in just a moment, Dannion Brinkley. North American trading has been preaching through me to you for a long time now that there is a currency change a-coming. Oh, it's coming. And they've already got the $100 bills ready for distribution soon now, as a matter of fact. The other denominations of currencies will follow. If you would like, right now, for free, to know how this kind of thing could affect you, you need to pick up the telephone and call North American Trading. Mention my name if you want to. Either way, you'll get the free information. Call is free, so is the information. It's power, and eventually it's money. Information is always that. The number is 1-800-877-9799. That's 1-800-877-9799. North American Trading. All right. We're trying to take care of business here in just one moment. Mr. Brinkley, you've heard our DMX ads for about a year and a half now, so what are you waiting for? DMX is the way to treat your hard water problems, and without salt. Not only can you eliminate dealing with salt, you can also forget maintenance, extra electricity bills, or other hidden ongoing costs. Aren't you tired of hard water scaling? That ugly white stuff around your faucets, causing toilet bowl ring and clogging the shower head, not to mention the water heater. DMX will take care of all that once and for all. How can you go wrong? In most homes, the DMX water conditioner paid for itself in 2 years or less, especially after your water heater throws off its hard water scaling and becomes more efficient. It will happen, folks. And then you continue to save money for years and years. The GMX units never wear out for about a $600 investment with an unconditional 90-day money-back guarantee. You can try out the GMX water conditioner and see for yourself. Give them a call at 1-800-4060-DMX. That's 1-800-4060-DMX. All right. Best-selling author and renowned speaker Dannion Brinkley lives in South Carolina, where we're going, as a matter of fact, where he does, you might want to know, hospice work. In other words, he works with people who have terminal diseases. That's the work he says he was called to do. Researches alternative medical therapies, works closely with the National Institute of Health, Board of Compatible and Alternative Medicine to create a better perspective on wellness. Dr. Raymond Moody, who's been on this program, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, considers Dannion his most noted student of NDEs. He's had 2 of them. The lightning incident I told you about, and then during open heart surgery, these were 14 years apart. He wrote Saved by the Light first. Now he's got a new book out. We'll tell you about that. It's called A Piece in the Light. Has been on Oprah, Larry King Live, Unsolved Mysteries, and probably a zillion other shows, and now he's here. Dannion, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Art. You're wonderful.
Oh, it's good. It's great to have you on finally.
You know, and I don't think that there's anything left for me to talk about. You just did the whole conversation so eloquently.
You're going to fill in all the blank spots.
It's great.
That's what you can do. And to do that, first thing I'm going to do is admit to you, I haven't read, of all things, I haven't read Saved by the Light. And so...
Well, that Piece in the Light's good, but I'm happy enough that you're reading that.
Well, I haven't read it. It's in front of me. It's a very good copy. I just got it. So in a way, it's going to make it a lot easier. Let's go back to your first experience. And if you would, describe in your own words, what really happened to you that first time on the telephone?
Take this situation. I'm 20 years later, as I talk to you now, Art. I'm 20 years later. 20 years. But here's a guy who starts his life as a complete jerk that really has a self-centered, antagonistic type nature that thought that power would be represented by how brutal you could be and play sports and interaction and fist fights and reaction and understanding how to do damage to things as a way of life, as a mentality for what I thought was my identity. And then ending up in the Vietnam era and going through whole types of situations where I ended up doing intelligence work, doing work in contract for various agencies, where everything that I did was a lot of times for the government, but the reinforcement part would come in that I did a good job blowing something up or destroying something. And so I had a continuous cycle of perpetuating an identity of myself.
Were you in intelligence in Vietnam?
Well, let's just say that I have worked in that. I don't like to put that too tight into perspective because then people ask you too many questions about stuff. You have to sit there with your mouth shut and just look at them.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love my country, no question. But as I've seen my country do, and I've taken part in things about what my country's done since the Cold War era, and fought proxy wars in country. And because we wanted to preserve our way of life, that we systematically fought many battles and that we fought proxy wars in countries. Yeah, there's no question I was a part of that. There's no question that I lived in that world. There's no question that I watched from that world and that I executed and performed acts that now are most horrendous things for me to think about in my life, but yet it was a daily routine in the course of where I was by the time I'm 25 years old.
So you had a whole life of violence.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was how I looked at things. It's how I dealt with it. I didn't listen to it 2 minutes. I knocked it out.
What service were you in?
Marine Corps.
So you got out of the Marine Corps?
Mm-hmm.
After Nam, you got out of the Marine Corps. I did the same thing. Mine was Air Force, but, after my time, 4 years, thank you, goodbye.
Well, I stayed. I mean, I just went to work doing the same things, but on the outside, because then it was contract. When you look at what a description of me would be now, would be plausible deniability. My existence, by, like I say, military intelligence is an oxymoron, but my particular, if I had to describe it, it would be plausible deniability, that you could have someone who knew how to do it, yet you could never take any responsibility for it. I think that what we let happen to us, Art, and I know you know this is true because we're in the same age group, that what we let happen is for one day, because a lot of people didn't want to really look at it, we chose to let lying, cheating, stealing, murder become ways at which we operated our government, our way of life. It's true. That way has created a moral decay in this country that's really affecting it because we let that instead of facing it and dealing with it, and we chose to do the clandestine world, which builds whole empires. I mean, I lived in that from the time I was 19 years old till I was 25 years old, and I still have knowledge and stuff of being around a lot of things that go on in that world.
Dannion, without you having to say anything, looking at what Hazel O'Leary has admitted we've done to our own people, or looking at Nightline and the other programs that have recently come forward and said, guess what, folks? We've been doing remote viewing officially in front of the U.S. government for 20 years now.
Yeah, that's pretty wonderful.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. So to tell you that I was a part of that, and that was the way the character operated. Then one day, now, I mean, this is the guy from South Carolina who grew up in the 50s and 60s. I'm a baby boomer. That's what this book is dedicated to the baby boomers.
You're talking about the new book now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that's what it's dedicated to. So I'm 25. I come home from my life, which was to go and do reconnaissance to whatever it was, and this was the fall of the Anastasius Moshe regime was coming up. The Sandinistas, the Monroe Doctrine was in place, so we weren't going to have any foreign government, or it wasn't going to be democracy, but really what it was it didn't suit how the system was working in Central and South America. So I would go down and set up what would happen, like there's a logistics on it. Mm-hmm. What you would blow up, you destroy infrastructure of things, power generators, systems, people who are in certain places of power, so that you create anarchy, which then you reinstall who you want. That's just how we've operated, that's how we operated. So I come home, quiet little life, very comfortable, real tight, without ever anybody knowing what I did. I worked within my family.
Well, just one thing I wonder. How do you jump from a private, a public sector life to doing the kind of stuff you were doing, and how do you make that pay your way in the private sector?
Say that again?
In other words, with the kind of stuff you did in the military, when you get out of the military...
Oh, that's a whole... I got you.
Yeah.
Oh, Art, that is a whole world of wonderment in how all that operates and how you get paid and how all that stuff operates. It's a world of wonderment.
That it is.
You know what? When you live in a life, for your adult life, and you watched it, it became a world that you've watched, and you watch it from an inside, knowing how it operates and how ridiculous and how wild some of the stuff it does. And all those interactions, it's pretty strange. So sometime we'll have that conversation, but it won't be on national radio.
You killed people.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so here you are.
So here I am home in this quiet life, and I'm talking to a friend because I restored antique cars. I would restore cars, and like everybody in the South, we mess with cars. I would restore cars.
Sure.
And I had found a 1932 LaSalle, which was with Teardrop, which was the magnificent car, and I could put it back together really easily with all the parts were there and everything.
Right.
And this friend was supposed to help me fix the garage once I took the car out. Typical afternoon, just some guy. I just happened to live in that clandestine world. I go to call him on the telephone. And it's like thunder and lightning, like anybody else's life, just a normal guy, All of a sudden, I hear a thunder. And I said, Tommy, I have to get off the phone. And he says, well, why? And I said, it's what thunder and lightning. He said, well, Mr. Macho, what's the big deal? I said, then I'm thinking, I said, well, Mom never said talk on the telephone, but exploded at lightning. Like, what does she say?
Mom was right.
Yeah, I mean, don't do it. The next thing, he says, oh, listen to Mr. Tough Guy. The next thing that happened is lightning strikes next to the telephone line. It follows down the line. I'm hit in the neck by the lightning. It runs down my spine. It wears the nails of the heels of my shoes to the nails in the floor. It throws me in the air. It suspends me in the air as it slams me back down on the bed and bends the bed frame. I never heard of the near-death experience. I wouldn't have believed it if someone had come and told it to me. I didn't live in that world. I didn't think in that kind of stuff. And I didn't think about death except that I lived around it all the time. It could have been my time, but I wasn't into religion. I didn't have a whole bunch of preconceived notions about it. And all of a sudden I'm on fire and I'm burning and I do not know where I am.
Were you conscious?
Oh, I was conscious, pal.
I mean, when I ask conscious, I'm asking prior to the beginning of what you're going to call the NDE experience, or from the second you got hit physically with the lightning,
Yeah.
you were in the NDE at that second?
Oh, no.
No,
I was on fire.
You were on fire.
It was as though I drank battery acid. I mean, I was seriously burning. I couldn't move. What I was thinking about with my wife, what I thought had happened, because as many a cold day and night when I came to get them, somebody had come to even the score is what my mindset was. It was just my time. So that's what I thought had happened. I couldn't determine if it was a rocket grenade or hand grenade or C4, C3, Fantax, whatever kind of explosive, but I couldn't move.
That makes sense.
Yeah, see, my automatic reflex was rock, roll, position, load, clip, hit, see, recon, see how much of me's left.
Yeah.
Right on. And that's my mindset. I'm worried about my wife because I didn't know I couldn't move and I couldn't get to her and I'm terrified and I'm burning and I can't see and I don't know what had happened. And all of a sudden I'm in this blue-gray place.
A blue-gray
A blue-gray place, comfortable. And it's as though I'm floating. And it's not like in a swimming pool, but it's more buoyant than that. It's not like in the water, but it was more buoyant. And I roll over and I see myself lying across the bed. I see me. I see her down the hall.
Wow.
I see her turn and look, and I'm watching myself, and I'm amazed at how much more brilliant and how much more wondrous the colors were of the things that were around me. And so many things that had been in this bedroom for as long as I'd lived in the place that I never saw, and the way I was seeing it. And I'm watching her come down the hall. I watch her try to work on me. The guy who was on the other end of the phone heard the explosion. He came straight over.
Can you remember what you looked like on the bed?
Well, I was smoking. The room was filled with smoke. There was, looked like I had steam rising from me.
Were you moving?
Oh, no, I wasn't moving now. I mean, you got to realize that I was not breathing for 28 minutes.
You stopped breathing for 28 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Long before 28 minutes should have expired, you should have undergone brain death.
Well, I would say that may explain part of my problem. They thought after 5 minutes you have brain damage.
That's right.
But, I'll accept that, that might be part of my problem, but I've looked at that.
But I think after 28 minutes, at best, you ought to be a mindless vegetable.
But you see, here's the really odd thing about that. I would agree, except that term comes from a concept that was established like 80 years ago, where they're resuscitating people in hospitals now that have been dead for 3 hours.
I know.
So the really funny part about it is the now what is now termed dead, and when you have brain damage and when oxygen brain deprivation and sensory deprivation and those kinds of things, I'm a firm believer that in biological shutdown and biochemical shutdown, when the body goes to the place where it goes now, then I can accept a lot of the theory because I work in hospice. I die with people.
Yeah. All right. I don't want to interrupt your story. A gray place, and you can see your wife trying to coming to you.
The two people resuscitating me. I see Tommy having a conversation with Sandy, and Sandy, he's trying to keep her calm. He was a corpsman in the Navy, so he knew I wasn't breathing. He knew, because, I mean, he had seen people die as he worked in the hospitals in the Navy. He knew. So he sent her next door to call the paramedics. And I'm watching him, and I could watch him and hear his thoughts of what he felt about me and what he was thinking about and our childhood, because we've been friends a long time, rushing back through his mind. The paramedics get there, and they're working on me, but they're different. They're reacting different. Their energy in between them, everyone has a silhouette or an energy form around them. I never knew any of this stuff until I was dead. And I'm watching it happen. They load me in the ambulance. I'm watching, instead of going with my body, I read through the house, through the wall, and I'm watching the things, and I come out into the place, it's raining. I'm watching the raindrops hit my face. I'm not disoriented. I'm aware and cognizant of so many things that have been in this neighborhood for as long as I've been there, but I'd never seen them before. And it was as though I was seeing everything. I mean, I'm seeing it, and I'm comfortable.
You're at a different level of awareness.
It's unbelievable who we are as the powerful and mighty spiritual beings that we are. And once we lift up out of this body, once we lift up out of it, who we see that we are.
Were you during this period of time conscious enough to be asking yourself questions, or were you
I was too amazed by it.
just an amazed observer?
I mean, it was just the most awesome, wondrous, curious, loving kind of thing I'd ever seen and, I'd ever been a part of. It was the most wondrous thing. And what I'm describing, Art, happens to everybody. It's not just uniquely Dannion Brinkley or the other 14 million people out there who've had one of these that in the United States. The estimate that more than 14 million people have had a near-death experience and talked about it.
Right.
Okay, so it's not just me. This happens to us all. But I wasn't thinking that this guy was working on me. Now, I'm paying attention to a lot more things then than I've ever paid attention to. I was in an ambulance, and I was in an ambulance, and I had never been in the new truck-type ambulances. Before it was like the same car that was a hearse. Then all of a sudden you had a truck that was a paramedic. This is how it happened in the South.
All right, Dannion, we've got to hold it there. We're at the bottom of the hour. So you're in the ambulance, and we'll pick it up right there as we come back, all right?
Thank you,
Stay
sir.
right where you are. Dannion Brinkley might be 24 hours a day, because frequently people forget things into the last minute. 1-800-562-6438. Back now to Dannion Brinkley. Dannion, welcome back.
It's great to be back, Art.
Well,
Art, can I tell you something? You have some really great sponsors.
oh, we do, I know.
I mean, these are great sponsors. I've written down every one of these numbers, and I will be calling them.
Yeah, thank you. At any rate, you were in an ambulance. You were dead.
Well, that's exactly. When you realize that the impact, 28 minutes, no pulse, no respiration, no heartbeat.
That's dead.
Yeah, and what's this? Not only that, completely paralyzed for 6 days, partially paralyzed for 7 months. It took me 2 years to learn to walk and feed myself, and I lost more than 60 pounds in the course of it. It wasn't just like some guy getting struck by lightning, and all of a sudden, he's dead for a few minutes and they bring him back.
Well, you didn't even get to that. How did they bring you back?
Well, here's how they brought me back. I just came back. But let's tell the story, because there's a lot of stuff in between those two.
All right.
All of a sudden, I'm in this ambulance, and I'm looking around inside this ambulance because I'd never been in one before. People are going to be amazed, Art, at how alive you are when you're dead.
Uh-huh.
You're going to be so amazed at how alive you are and what you're looking at and what you pay attention to that you're not really thinking about that you're dead. And I mean, this is me talking to a lot of people who had near-death experience.
Okay, this is like a constant thread that I see going through your story. An increased consciousness, awareness of everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like everything's brighter.
Everything is far more in detailed and more comprehensible. things are, as you look at it, you absorb and understand what it is, and you know very consciously what it is. It's more like you conceive things than you think them through. The ability of the thought processes begin to change. But here I am, never heard of any of this stuff. I was never heard of it. I never even thought about it. They wouldn't, and I would have humiliated or probably slugged the guy or shot him to see if he had a near-death experience. Whoever told me this story. When all of a sudden the guy says he's gone. He's gone. I'm thinking to myself, gone where? Because I'm not paying attention to what he's doing. He begins to move the sheet, and I look over my shoulder at me. A tunnel forms. This tunnel is moving whether I'm moving or not, and I'm pulled down it. I become more comfortable and more at peace with where I'm going and what I'm doing than ever before. I was not afraid, but it didn't matter where I was, as opposed to that body on fire and burning, and I couldn't walk and I couldn't see and I couldn't move, and the pain that I was in. But the place that I was at that moment, I would have never ever thought about going back. Never. I would never, even to this day, if I'd had a choice, I wouldn't have gone back to that body, and I wouldn't be in this thing now if it was really totally up to me. So I come into this place of the most radiant light. It's really terrific. I mean, it's bright and brilliant. And it has this, it's like fog or a mist. I'm looking around, and yes, I'm thinking about whether it is, where am I? Where is this place? What exactly is happening to me? But not quite that way, more in a lighter state. Not quite as worried about it. Sure. All of a sudden, out of the right side to my right, this being appears, and when I say a being, I mean a B-E-I-N-G for people west of the Rockies. Okay, not a being.
What exactly could you describe this being?
Imagine you're in a gym, and a lot of these descriptions took years for me to come up with, and as poor as they are, they're the best I have. Imagine being in a big auditorium, and someone opens the door. And as they open the door to the outside on a sunny day, and you step in and you see the silhouette of a person, and the lights around them, and that light fills the gym, or fills the auditorium.
Okay, I've got the picture.
And then radiating in hues were colors, but this emanated colors from the inner part of its inner being. It would emanate out in different shades and hues of subtle pastel colors, as though its thought processes were changing, its moods, its energy. I look down at my hand. I'm doing the same thing, but different. Not quite as intense or as wondrous as this being I'm seeing, but I'm doing the same thing. As I look down at my hand, and I have a hand, and it looks like it's covered in silk, and it looks as though it's more fluid than it does as I look at it in the physical sense.
This being, as you saw it outlined, or even radiating, did you see what you would describe as a human form, a vaguely human form, or
You don't think in those terms.
you don't think in those terms?
No, you're living in the spiritual dimension. Then you are back home where you came from. You begin to automatically acclimate toward it. Until 20 years later.
Okay, but you saw the physical form of your own hand.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it was there. I could literally almost see through it, but I could see that it existed. The ethereal body, that I had a body and I was in one, and the one that I had just left, you could have it. I didn't care about where it was. They were rushing it to the hospital. They were sticking needles in it. They were pounding on it. They say they resuscitated me. Some say that they didn't. Then they lost me again. Another 15 minutes has passed, and they covered me with a sheet and rolled me into a little room next to the emergency room and turned the light out. And I filled out the papers and left them on the top, and they turned the light out because they were busy that night this was the medical university. They were busy that night in the hospital. And so that's what's going on while they're rushing me to the hospital in the ambulance. But I'm in this place where this being comes. I don't know all that stuff. There's the stories that were told to me by the doctors and the people that were there. I don't know any of that. And then I'm in this place, and I am watching how it's alive, and the light, this bright, brilliant light. I'm as much of a part of it. It is a part of me, and I know this is where I came from. I know that this is the place I'm supposed to be, and this is where I came from.
Right.
And I begin to watch as this happen. This being moves closer to me. As this being comes closer to me, I feel this energy, the feeling about being surrounded and comfortable and loving, and these are the most important. This perspective is the perspective that is in play then. It's not my analytical, military-minded, lock and load position. That's gone. That doesn't even exist in any format in what I'm going through. And then this thing gets close to me. All of a sudden, I start feeling all the childlike feelings that you feel as a kid. And then I start forming opinions about them, like in the young adulthood or teenage years, or no, in adolescence, you form opinions about what you like and what you dislike. But all of a sudden, I had a panoramic life of view, 360-degree panoramic life of view, literally of everything I had ever seen, ever gone through, ever touched, that ever happened, everything. Then all of a sudden, as I'm watching all of this and I'm living it, I'm not only experiencing my entire life from birth to the day I got struck by lightning. I am watching it from an overview, and I'm also observing it. It's as though I'm three perspectives looking at it. Now, this was wild. This was pretty wild for me, Art.
Pretty wild for anybody, but Dannion, considering how you described your earlier life, did you, as you reviewed your life in almost three dimensions, I guess, guilt, anger, revulsion,
oh, listen, Art, it hasn't even started getting good to you yet. Wait till you hear this next part. And remember, this is going to happen to you, too. Everybody that's listening, this is not just one guy from South Carolina. I mean, it's just one guy from South Carolina, but this is how you leave this world, too. I don't care what anybody tells you. This is the way your mom will, your dad will, your brothers and your sisters, yourself. This is how. This is the way you leave this world. So not only did I see and feel everything I went through, I literally became every person that I had ever encountered in my life. And I got to feel the direct result of my interaction between me and those people. I not only got to feel the anger, frustration, humiliation, pain, literally horror that I had inflicted on thousands of people, in lots of different countries and lots of different places in that 25 years, that it was awesome to me. It was the most humiliating thing, but the humiliation was not so much in that I had done it, but I got to feel. That tells me there's justice and there's fairness and there's righteousness and there is a day of judgment. But guess who judges you? You judge you. It's you who looked at you. Mm-hmm. I mean, people think that there's a God or a devil or they're going to be judged by a force outside of themselves. They're making a mistake.
Dannion, even those of us who have not had death experiences, I'm calling yours death experience.
Oh, okay.
We all, as we begin to get older, begin to judge ourselves, I think. We start to review the natural course of our life.
I think that's maturity, though. But I think it's that we also are aware of our spiritual side, too, Art. I'm 45 years old. I've been out here dealing in these issues since one day in 1975 by no choice of my own. One day, everything I didn't believe and was against, I became. And then in the course of it, I saw a system by which we as powerful and mighty spiritual beings leave this world. If we could get our mindset back to looking at who we really are, these next 7 or 8 years won't be near as weird as they're about to become. But if we don't do that, we put ourselves in place where by virtually being afraid of death, we set up such fear-based psychologies, we give up most of our freedoms and our rights. And if there ever was a time that a one-world government or all those conspirology theoretical applications could be in place, it's right now. It's right now. So by us looking at it and by doing this show, I mean, I'm a 45-year-old guy. I've been here 20 years, but I've been through 2 near-death experiences. One at 25 years old when I was the biggest asshole in the world, and another one 14 years later when I had to have open heart surgery. They took my heart out of my chest, and they stopped the heartbeat, put me on pumps, life support systems, and cut my heart open, and I had a second near-death experience. In the course of that, from being that jerk, I became a hospice volunteer. I've been a hospice volunteer for 17 years. Been a nursing home volunteer for 12 years. I got my 151st patient, a person, a friend, as you want to call them, that I've been with in various stages of death. So I not only have the nature of growing up in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. I'm not only a baby boomer, but I've been through this twice. I've been around since Dr. Raymond Moody first wrote his book in 1975. I'm one of the first people that he talked to as he was putting this book together. I know every major researcher in the world that deals with these issues. And I know and study everything that I can find out about them because I believe that us not being afraid of dying, not being afraid of it, and looking at this, based on just because I've seen it happen twice, like we were talking about earlier, it doesn't take a damn rocket scientist. If you kill a guy a couple of times, he'll figure something out. People ask me, they say, Dan, well, did you get religion? No, I did not get religion. Did you get spiritual? Yes, I got a little spiritual out of it. What did you get? I got smart. I'll see how it operates. And I've heard people who were breathing their last breaths tell me the same thing. That's what I write about in these books. Saved by the Light is the history, which is what we're talking about now. And a piece in the light is me looking back at 20 years, talking to the generation that was born between 1940 and 1964. You were born between 1940 and 1964. You're in the same place where I am. You're looking at the same issues that I'm dealing with. You're looking at your mortality, and you're trying to figure out how to deal with the people who you love and those who have loved you face theirs, moms and dads, aunts and uncles, and friends, neighbors, brothers, and sisters. And what I deal with is looking at these issues for these 20 years, how to take what happened to me and apply it to your everyday lives and like the same things that I've been watching. The predictions, the so-called prophecies that everybody rants and raves about that keeps coming true. But when people ask me, would I become a prophet or a seer? I say no. I went through this experience when I was struck by lightning. These are the things that I saw happen, written down, documented. I mean, this is 20 years ago. This is not something I just started talking about yesterday. 20 years from people who were the early researchers in this, hearing these things as we would talk in the early days.
It is interesting. You wrote this book at a very timely moment. NBC ran a story the other night about people turning 50. There are now 10,000 people in America turning 50 every day, and they're beginning to realize, as you suggested, their own mortality. They're beginning to become, according to NBC and their survey, spiritual, interestingly, not necessarily with structured religion,
Absolutely.
but they're becoming, according to all the surveys, more spiritual. So your book is out for these people at just the right time.
Well, because look, Spirit designed so much of what this is, Art. I spent 20 years, my entire adult life here, and I changed. And if there was somebody out there who grew up in the same time frame and who'd been through what I've been through, and that person was not writing books and talking, helping me deal with my mortality and dealing with the issues of my friends and neighbors and brothers and sisters got cancer and AIDS, and now my mom and my dad died, my aunts and my uncles. If that person wasn't out there helping me, I'd have an opinion about it. Okay? I mean, I'd have one. And it happened to me. I didn't volunteer for it. And the way I learned it was being struck by lightning one day. Everything I was totally against, one day I became. And I watched it and looked at it. And then the second time when they cut my heart out of my chest because of complications from dealing with being struck by lightning. And I just keeled over. I went to I just keeled over.
All right.
And when you get there, and you look at it, we are in a place by providing. I believe that the greatest sin and greatest crisis that we are in this country and in this whole world is that we allow people to die alone. And it is, everybody knows that I'm a closet hospice volunteer, that my big thing in my life is that people learn to do hospice work. And I've recruited nearly 8,000 hospice volunteers, and I've helped hospice programs all over this country, and I'm an avid supportive believer, and I am also a hospice volunteer myself for 17 years.
I know you do a lot of it, don't you?
Absolutely. I don't just talk this crap. I do it.
Do you, when you go in and you're working with a dying person, do you come at them just about the way you're coming at us right now?
Depends on the person. I come at each person based on where they come from. Some people that I'm with for a year, I never talk about near-death experience. I never deal with the issue. What I deal with is that's what a piece is about. A piece is me having and developing a structure by which to be able to become intuitive and to deal with the issues of closure in the final days.
Right.
And I write chapters about how to deal with it, what to look at. I'm a practical application kind of guy. I've went through the experiences. I understand that we're powerful spiritual beings. I understand that we don't die, and I understand that the way that institutions, religions, and our government has us, but we're afraid of facing these issues. And by not facing them, we create so many ways of horror, like the poignancies of every dollar in healthcare is spending the last 6 months of life to expend life an average of 19 days.
I know.
That means that they are torturing people to death.
I know.
So I support living wills, and I talk about the issues in the book. There's some pretty cosmic stuff that he's saved by the light and a piece in the light. No question about it. There are predictions of things for the future I know we'll talk about it.
Yeah, that's what's coming.
Yeah, we save that to the end so we keep them on the line.
Well, you hook them. Look, I'm a very good friend of Gordon Michael Scallion's.
Oh, he's terrific.
He is a very, and what I've said of him on the air, because I've talked to Gordon for hours off the air, Dannion.
This is like a real person.
Yeah, it's like a real person. And whether, what he says is real or will come to pass, I don't know. All I know is he's really sincere. And as far as I'm concerned, if there is the real McCoy, Gordon's the one. I spent hours with him on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
Gordon is predicting the probability. Boy, and I hope people underline that word, probability now.
Well, because we all have the ability to change and alter all of this.
Of a series of events that will, not end the world, but it's going to change everything, and there will be millions that will not make it.
Well, that'll be the great part. Well, remember the difference between cataclysm and natural disasters and what we perpetrate on each other as we live in this human existence. One of the main things is when you see your life pass before you twice, when you see it happen twice, 14 years apart, you learn a system of how to look at your everyday life. That's what Atita is about.
Look, we're at the top of the hour. One quick question. Were both experiences pretty much the same?
Yeah. And so will everyone else's. The way I'm describing is the way it happened.
Okay. All right. Hold it. That's the place to hold it. When we come back, we'll go down the Scallion Alley a little bit here and see what you can say about that. Dannion Brinkley is my guest in South Carolina. You're listening to the CBP Radio Network.
Wildcard line at 702-727-1295. That's 702-727-1295. First-time callers can reach Art Bell at 702-727-1222. 702-727-1222. Now, here again, Art Bell.
My guest is Dannion Brinkley. If you have missed the first hour, there's no way I can encapsulate it for you properly. Dannion Brinkley should be known to you by reputation, worldwide. He lives in South Carolina. When he was a young man, he was a bad man. He was a rough youngster. And then he went to Vietnam and did a lot of things that he, I believe, regrets now. Then he had two, what I call death experiences. One after being struck by lightning, which took many months to recover from, was really the first study done by Raymond Moody. And later, a second death experience during open heart surgery. We're talking about it. We'll be back to him in just a moment. New technology is one of my favorite things, as you know, and Devin, too. Back now to South Carolina and Dannion Brinkley. Dannion, you're on the air again. I mentioned prior to the hour, Gordon Michael's guy. When you had the experiences you had, and I don't know whether it was one or both times, well, first let me say this. I followed Gordon, and his predictions are made in an interesting way. He'll talk of 3 television screens he sees, one more brightly than the other, the most likely future course for the events that he portrayed on these screens. And he has become more and more specific lately, Dannion, predicting a series of Earth-changing events. And frankly, his hit rate, damn it all, appears to be too close for comfort, is the words I would use. A recent earthquake, one in Japan 8.0 north of Japan, then another one in the Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean region that he has just predicted. Should this cycle continue, horrendous things are predicted. Did you see any of the same sort of thing or in any way?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know Gordon Michael. I think he's terrific. I mean, a lot of that stuff, I don't focus so much on earthquakes. See, here's what happened to me, Art. After I had the panoramic light review and the being of light, I traveled with this being of light to a place that were like crystal cities, the only way I could describe them. I went into this building that was the most magnificent, most wondrous thing I'd ever seen in my life. I mean, I marveled at what it was built of. It was built of glass and it radiated. And as I was there, I came before these 12 beings. First, there was nothing, no one else there but me, and then these 12 magnificent beings in front of me. And as I watched each of these beings, they transmitted to me, like in a box, what I would call a video box, much like Gordon Michael is describing. It would come at me from each of these beings. It would send its own box, and the box would open up, and I would look in, and then all of a sudden I was back in physical reality. I was living these events. I was watching things go on. Like in 1975, I said that there would be a nuclear accident in the Soviet Union in 1986, and then there would be a second nuclear accident in 1995 between Norway and between Russia and Norway, and I said there would be an economic collapse of America, and it would come in 94 to 96, and I said America would go to war, and the Soviet Union would collapse in 1989, and that America would go to war in the first weeks of August of 1990, and it would be called Storm something, and it would be in the Middle East, and I mean, on and on and on and on and on. One of the things that also is that as America moves into economic instability, that there will be a series of major earthquakes worldwide.
All right, I want to stop you for a second. Your friend, in the introduction I read when we began the interview, said 96 out of 117 visions that you've had have come true. Now,
remember where this came from.
Okay, it's enough.
This is a 20-year-old, Glenn.
Well, I was going to just ask. Gordon Michael has a newsletter. I haven't followed your life well enough to know the predictions that you made, and they're not really predictions, I'm sorry.
Well, this is what I saw.
The visions.
Yeah, the visions, but not predictions. Thank you very much, Art.
Were they in some way
similar to what he was experiencing?
No, documented.
Yeah. Like listed or 20 years old. In the early days, Art, I told everybody everything. You know, I would just tell everybody. And when I was doing the early days of the research, most of the early researchers had heard these stories. And it was them who they began to talk to each other. And then they would start telling other people. And they would say, I wasn't out ranting and raving about the predictions. Because my concept of being able to look into the future was based on the fact that would give me no place to run. But I would have to stay, stick, and do what I was appointed and what I was told to do to get it done. And I never looked at being a prophet as a very, I never had a good effect on that. I didn't
well,
think much about
I
that.
guess these are just words. I don't know whether you call it prophecy or things that you relate that are coming because of visions you had. These
Yeah, this is what I see as the future, and what Michael is talking about. I saw two major earthquakes. I mean, there were worldwide earthquakes going on, but the one that I was focused on happened in America, somewhere in the middle of America, and then somewhere on the West Coast. And you would know how it would be triggered because you would have a series of earthquakes from Mexico all the way down to Chile. And once that happened, and this is like, all this has to happen before 1998, 99. I mean, it has to occur by then. And that this series of events would cause the pressure of civil strife in South America, and the earthquakes, collapsing economies, and then a worldwide, a Western Hemisphere movement, a migration from people like immigrants into the United States that would force this issue into the southern states, to the southwestern states. And that this would be the way that you would know that we had entered that phase where if we weren't careful and didn't pay attention to where you were, then whereas the East Coast would literally be, the West Coast would literally be devastated. Everywhere in that train of events, in the middle of America.
Gordon said that he saw millions of people coming from California to my state, Nevada, and others. He saw a mass movement of refugees.
There should be even more than that. It will be millions and millions. But see, listen, remember this, Art. In our spiritual context, when an earthquake takes 20,000 people, and they're gone from the face of the earth in this earthquake, it's like Mardi Gras on the spiritual side. They don't care how you got back. They glad you're home. Listen to me now.
No, I am listening.
Yeah, there's a complete difference between what's going on in Bosnia and murdering and raping and killing each other as opposed to natural disasters. So as people prepare and as they look at their lives, because I write about it too. Some of the stuff that I've seen come true, it scares the hang out of me, but it doesn't mean that I'm not going to tell people and write it and tell it as honestly as I can tell it, because I have to deal with it. They can buy the book and deal with it to see how to protect themselves in a lot of situations, or they don't have to. I have to deal with it, And I always never did I like understanding that I can see from the visions that I saw 20 years ago and how consistent that they keep coming true. It just means that what they're doing on the other side, they know what they're doing, because the key to the whole visions that I saw was that we could affect it. We can't affect natural phenomena that's going to occur. And what really gets me about people, Gordon Michael is sensing the nature of this planet in a solar system with thousands and thousands and thousands of other planets working in conjunction with each other in the natural course of their evolutionary process as a planet. And for us to conceive that thinks that we're having any great and grand effect on that other than we might be messing up their environment, which is true. But the Earth and the natural nature of this solar system and this physical existence will in itself balance itself.
Okay. Let me stop you for a second. And with my own little thing, you haven't heard this because we haven't talked about it.
You're not going to hurt me, are you?
No, of course not. Anyway, I doubt I could, based on what you told me. I am a talk show host. I haven't died. I haven't had an NDE or a death experience. Or I haven't seen what Gordon says he's seen. But I've been doing this program, or a form of it, all night long for 11 years now. And I perceive that events, economic, political, social, all areas of human endeavor right now are accelerating, quickening, moving quickly toward, I don't know.
2004.
Well, okay, I don't know what. I can't, I haven't seen that. But I do perceive what I call a quickening. And then there's one other thing, and this is maybe a little on the negative side, but I'll run it by you very quickly, and that is that, remember the old movie High and Mighty? They're going from Honolulu to San Francisco. And in those days, you only had enough gas to get from point A to point B, not extra, so that by the time you're out in the mid-Pacific, past the halfway point, you reach what was called a point of no return. And that meant no matter what the heck happened to the aircraft, you had to go on. You're going on. You sure as hell weren't going back because you didn't have enough gas to get back. So I kind of think that we passed that point. I feel that we passed that point of no return. Now, that doesn't mean I think the end of the world's coming. It just means that I think that we're going to go on to whatever is next and that it's not very far away.
I agree 100%. And I don't think that the time has passed. I think we're in it. In 1975 and 76, in conversations that are recorded on cassettes, it's written down in newspaper articles, I said that 1994 to 1996 would be the year, but we would make the greatest impact and to put our spiritual selves in order and to really catch our breath. And I believe that we would do that. I believe that it's happening. And so we have the ability to alter much of the future that's coming as powerful spiritual beings, and we must accept that place and we must identify with that place. And the near-death experience affords the greatest opportunity for people outside of religion and government and institutions to look at how and who we really are, to identify ourselves, to look at the death issue, to get past that, because this world is going to change. It's going to go as economically. It's going to go. It's going to go physiologically and environmentally, because the shift and change is happening naturally, as well as that we are at a certain juncture in the growth process of the spiritual, physical dimension we call this life.
All right, then, I'll just lay this out. Should these changes occur?
Not should. They are going to occur.
Okay. When they occur,
yeah, now you're talking.
When they occur, I'll stick with your vocabulary here.
Yeah.
When they occur, a lot of people, I mean, it's like right now you're talking to a lot of people who aren't going to be here.
Isn't that great?
Isn't that great?
Lucky dog.
Lucky dogs. All right, so when lay it really out straight for them, and if somebody were to ask you, look, Dannion, tell me about death.
The greatest, most wondrous part, in that number one, it doesn't happen. Number two, you know, as a powerful and mighty spiritual being, that in you, what you're supposed to be doing and how you're supposed to be doing it, you know that, and most of us are doing that. The crisis comes in that we have been so driven into a fear-based psychology that death is some ultimate end, final judgment, you go to heaven and hell, that it's the greatest control mechanism and the greatest hope ever put upon us. I recommend, and I say this all over, I lecture it all over the world, I talk about it, that if you go do hospice work, if you go and get yourself involved in this issue, all over the world, I talk about it, that if you go do hospice work, if you go and get yourself involved in this issue, and put yourself in a place, because you're going to be there anyway, but in a lot more turbulent times, you're going to find out how deeply powerful and spiritual you are. You're going to find out how to identify, how to deal with the issues going on, how to reduce stress in your life. That's what I write about. I mean, that's what all I talk about. As I see this stuff happening, it's not me trying to be the next prophet or the next guru. It's me trying to be a guy that's seen the future, that wants it to come true, that's seen the ideals and how death and all the things that they showed me was so accurate that I have to stand up and I have to descend and talk to my generation, because we are the ones that will make the difference. Here comes 96 an election year. What is the number one issue? Managed care, health care. I'm supposed to think that that crowd that I saw 20 years ago didn't know what they were talking about when I'm watching it happen on CNN today. Raymond and I used to sit and be awful amazed. It always amazed me. You know, I'm not, this stuff happened 20 years ago, and I just happened to remember it and write it down, and it's indelibly placed in my mind. You can trust that.
All right, here's the thing. How would you deal with this, based on what you've told us about death so far? It's from Rick, who says, you're an incredible guy. Could you please ask Dannion how you explain the near-death experiences of those who claim to have gone to hell and back.
I would have it easy. You have about 3% of the people who have near-death experiences that have hellish experiences. Now, I mean, if anybody was going to hell, I would have been going. I can promise you that, pal. And if I didn't go, well, the most people listening to this broadcast are slim to none. I can cover that issue right off the top. The next point is that people who have hellish experiences, I'm not saying that they don't happen. But a lot of people who are describing near-death experiences are having shock reaction. They're having hallucination.
Yes.
They're going through shock of chemicals. They're going through anesthesia shock. They're having a temporal lobe seizure. They're having a frontal lobe seizure. They're having oxygen brain deprivation. They're having the things that a lot of people in medicine are saying that are the complete explanation of the near-death experience. Okay, I agree and I believe in that. I mean, I've looked at this process and watched it and gone back and studied myself and talked to people because when you speak about people trusting you, talking about the value of life and death, and you better speak with an open, honest place, and you better check it and look at it for yourself. You better be honest with them because it's the stuff that the panoramic life is used in place, then you're looking at how you're affecting the lives of people and that I will be each of them. And people better believe I'm careful with what I'm telling them.
All right, but look, I'll bet you've seen the physician on television who, I forget, it was a network show, but he said, look, these people with near-death experiences, what's happening physiologically is that when your brain is deprived of oxygen and blood and oxygen, same thing, it dies, and it dies from the outside in. In other words, the brain cells begin dysfunctioning from the outside, headed toward the core. And so it is no surprise that they see what appears to be a tunnel with a bright light, which is actually, according to the lady doctor on TV, the core or the center of the brain, the last.
Yeah, the peptide bonds are breaking down, causing endorphin release. The tunnel comes from the neurochemical nature of the brain sparking and reacting. Oxygen brain deprivation.
Yeah, you've got it.
Yeah, or temporal lobe seizures or frontal lobe seizures. I look at all of those. I mean, I looked at them. I've looked at them and talked to people who are describing near-death experiences that are having anesthesia reaction and hallucinating. I mean, I'm watching this. I go through it a lot of times in my hospice work with people who are in their final hours of being alive, and I'm sitting there next to them. I'm watching this happen. There is a stark difference between the two. I believe that we have a biological, neurological shutdown, and a lot of these things that are described occur. But a near-death experience is completely different because you can hear people who say they've had these type of experiences, but the transformative nature of the near-death experience and the true event is so awesome and so transforming that these people come back not afraid of dying, not only looking at their lives, but growing spiritually, becoming hospice volunteers, changing their whole way. As a person who had one of these experiences that are hellish or that was an hallucination or anaphylactic shock or any of these types of things, they just go on about their lives and just deal with it as nothing occurred. That is the greatest point. And the panoramic life of you as though your life passes before you, which I know in drowning victims, it's a very common thing to have your life pass before you as you begin to breathe water into your lungs, or what appears to be that.
So, in other words, you would just have to say to that doctor, sounds good, but listen, lady,
Control freak doctors who become gods themselves, so to speak, because they live in life and death.
That's the nature of the profession. Dannion, bottom of the hour, rest. We'll be right back to you. My guest is Dannion Brinkley, and we'll both be back, I think, in a moment. Good morning. I guess you know by now, my guest from South Carolina, near Columbia actually, is Dannion Brinkley. This should say it all. It's a fact from Carroll and Mesa. Fantastic program. Dannion, you're amazing. I want to thank you for being there to educate people. You're doing a truly marvelous service for mankind and planet Earth. Saw the TV movie about your life a few weeks back and thought it was great. Learned an awful lot about who and what Dannion Brinkley is. You certainly are an anomaly. That's interesting. An anomaly. I guess he is, isn't he? And he'll be right back. Listen, if you suffer from pain, not the kind that Dannion counsels for generally, but the more minor stuff, rheumatism, arthritis, joint pain, that kind of thing, there is now liquid aspirin. And whoever told you you had to take aspirin, 2 of them, and call me in the morning, whatever the line is, was wrong. This is liquid aspirin. It doesn't have to go into your digestive system. You can spray it right where it hurts. And it's just about miraculous, actually. It's just aspirin in liquid form. It's called Loprena. Why somebody did not invent it 50 years ago, I don't know. But it's here now. The people at Help Naturally can sell it to you. In fact, if you ask, they'll tell you how you can get an even better bargain price. Call Help Naturally for Loprena at 1-800-308-4565. At 1-800-308-4565. One other item, and that is the secret of making money. Most people know it's having it to begin with. Or maybe having a rich relative die and leaving you a big bundle. Short of that, if you want to make it yourself, you've got to invest. You got to have something to make some. Then you've got to invest it profitably, and that means the right business and the right time. Those who wait, generally it's, like the big one that got away. This might be that. Microtech, telecommunications, an $8,200 investment, not in licensed lotteries or something like that, but in actually established telecommunications facilities in cities across America, many of them already built. Would return to you $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 or more, plus the yearly income for the rest of your life. Could go right into your IRA or retirement plan, if you will. It is, though, an investment. That means an up and down side. Why they call it an investment. We'll send you a free video cassette. It'll explain all about it. Sit down, watch it, decide for yourself. The call and the video cassette are free. You can call 24 hours a day, including right now. 1-800-444-1049. That's 1-800-444-1049. And I've been bad. I know. I don't have the lines open yet. I've got one, I've actually got a lot of faxes here, but one I've got to ask Dannion about immediately. And that is, you apparently have had a vision, recently told Dannion, according to this doctor, something about the secrets or evidence of Atlantis found hidden in the tomb of Ramses II in Egypt. That's a question from Lexington, Kentucky. What do you... Is there something to that, Dannion?
Well, let me do this one first. First, for the person, the lady from Mesa, I guess
Arizona, yeah.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate what you were saying. Second, you still have terrific sponsors.
Yeah.
Third, I have absolutely no question. I just came back from Egypt. See, I got to a place in my life where no matter what it takes for me to go and see and to watch these things happen, I'm going to figure out how to do it. I went to Egypt, earthquake. And then as I was going over there, I'm talking to people who are going on a trip. The Visions tour was the tour that I went on, and there were ARE tour was there, people just going to Egypt. I knew that from seeing the visions and looking in Saved by the Light, which has all of them in there, Saved by the Light and At Peace in the Light have the visions and detailed and the ones that have come true and, what's happened in the last year and a half. The things that I talked about in phase that there was no way I could possibly know that come true. And I knew that there would be an earthquake, and that this earthquake would come about in the new ruins that are now going on there. The new ruins, and what's going on is they're excavating the Sphinx and they're looking at it.
Oh, I know.
Right in that area. And I think it's in the place where the Valley of the Kings is. That there is a series of chambers there after they found these 50 new graves. They've done sound waves tent, and there's at least 7 more rooms below these rooms. And I know that one of the parts that's going to really transform our knowledge of stuff is the discovery of these records.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's Atlantis, But I know that history as we now record it
Will
is about to
change.
be radically changed in the next 2 years.
I believe it. I believe it did. Now, here's the $64,000 question. With inflation, it's much more these days. And that is, if, and you're not the only one saying it, so many are, such a revelation is sound. Wouldn't it be wonderful? Well, yeah, but the question is, would those who maintain the status quo allow it to be known?
There is the fun part. Here's what I like best about our generation, the baby boomers. This is 40 to 64. We will face anything. We are able to look at it because we are evolved in a certain conscious level. Like you said, it's accelerating. We who came at this particular period in time, who entered the earth at this particular time, are the best there is at what we do. We're the best because this is a time of transition in the mental, physical, and spiritual nature of this particular section of evolvement in the universe. We're powerful spiritual beings. We have existed. We chose to come here, and we were chosen to come here for certain events or a certain experience in what we call a lifetime. Period, no question. This time is the greatest time literally in the history of the evolution of the conscious process, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And we're here. Every single person on this earth, and every person on here is a powerful and mighty spiritual being with destiny, hope, vision, and succeeding. And they have panoramic life reviews and how they leave this world. I know about. I don't understand everything about birth. I don't understand everything about earth changes, but I understand how you leave this world.
I know, but still, Dannion, not everybody. And you might refer to your you might refer to your earlier life and try and answer the question.
Yeah.
If somebody who's still,
they would be dead now. I believe that a lot of this stuff is still being contained. There's so much of the stuff that is being contained. What the fun part is that I didn't have sense enough 20 years ago to know the difference. I just described what I saw, what would happen, and I've watched how after 20 years the scenarios create themselves. I believe that there is groups of conspiracies trying to retain and keep the information. I have absolutely no question that one of the greatest supporters and believers in Gordon Michael Scallion is the Federal Emergency Preparedness Act. After I read what the Federal Emergency Preparedness Act is,
I know.
It is somebody who knows that all this stuff is going to happen.
Yep.
They know the same thing that Gordon Michael's saying, that Dannion Brinkley's saying, that 50 other people out there in the world are saying. I came across it when I was dead. That's when I came across this information. People, and they would say, I wasn't out ranting and raving about the predictions. Because my concept of being able to look into the future was based on the fact that that would give me no place to run, that I would have to stick and do what I was appointed and what I was told to do to get it done. And I never looked at being a prophet as a very, I never had a good effect on that.
I guess these are just words. I don't know whether you call it prophecy or things that you relate that are coming because of visions you had. These are all
this
words.
Is what I see as the future, and what Gordon Michael's Act is.
I know.
It is somebody who knows that all this stuff is going to happen.
Yep.
They know the same thing that Gordon Michael's saying, that Dannion Brinkley's saying, that 50 other people out there in the world. I came across this information, all right, and it stayed with me and it keeps coming true.
Well, that's a much higher security clearance than I've got.
Well, right, so that's how I came about it, and I've watched it come true. We have the ability to change. We must watch Bosnia. Bosnia is the position where the war between religions begins, Muslim and Islam. We must watch this, and we must be strong in our spiritual way we look at it, and we must keep our consciousness and look at it as an issue of this country that really affects its moral Mental, physical, and spiritual fiber. It'd be World War III is what it could be. Or it could be the beginning that's where World War One started, World War II started. We can affect change in those things. We can have conscious thoughts about these things.
What do you think the most likely outcome there is?
Well, we're getting ready to start a big war that'll last about 9 years.
Yeah.
And it's up there. All you have to do is wait till Jerusalem will become the center of the earth again soon.
Well, they just built with great and grand effort this bridge that allowed all our heavy armor and war machines to cross and so forth and so on.
And you just love it. But
I call it the bridge over the river. Why?
Yeah, because somewhere along the line, Art, somewhere in this grand scheme, the art of free will came into play. That the art of free will that was never conceived that we ourselves would try to maintain a certain existence out of fear or out of control. Only two ways. That we would be afraid of leaving here. I think that still baffles the spiritual side. I think that they can't figure out what in the hell locks us here. Or those people who try to control other people. But also in this, only the greatest of the spiritual beings come into this system. These are the great fighters. These are the great champions. Everyone who's listening to this program is an old, ancient, powerful spiritual being with history and heritage and greatness and grandeur, and they give all that up and they separate from it, and they come within these bodies to work out an existence that somehow benefits all of mankind, all of spiritual kind, and keeps in the way that the systems of evolution, it keeps broadening or rises of the ability to the consciousness and to comprehend, or God, whatever that is. When people ask me, did I see God? I wouldn't know God if I'd seen God, seen where God lived, and felt that presence of that loving nature.
Dannion, let me stop you.
What don't hurt?
If I don't take calls,
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm in trouble.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Let's take a few. Let's let a few people ask you questions. East of the Rockies, someplace or another. You're on the air with Dannion Brinkley. Where are you calling from, please?
From Minneapolis, Art.
Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Yes.
KSPP.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Dannion. Your name? Mike. Hi, Mike. And I cannot wait to buy your book. Oh, thank you very, very much. I have read the book Embraced by the Light by Betty Eady, I'm sorry. They're different, Mike. I don't have a lot of religion as I attach to it. Mine are clear-cut ways that a person that's just an everyday guy who had this happen to him, who looks at it, who searched it out. It's the everyday way I look at it. But mine's not filled with religion. It's just straight out looking at what happened to me, then looking, which is saved by the light, and all the prophecies and all that cosmic stuff that, I can't help it. I just happen to make mistake of telling everybody, okay? And then what I figured out how you do with it, how to take this stuff and incorporate it into your lives for every day. You understand the spiritual side of yourself as we deal with what the future holds. Okay. I was just curious about what you did think of the Bible. Are we living revelation? Oh, I like the Bible. Do ya? Yeah, it's fun. But the Bible has a lot of true stuff to it, and has a lot of stuff that doesn't really kind of fit. I don't know. I went to look at where the Bible came from, and it came from the Edict of Nicaea in 325 A.D. when Justinian and King Emperor Justinian wanted to make Christianity the religion of the Holy Roman Empire, and he had a meeting, and they had 1,000 or so manuscripts, and every day some people would not show up to vote if you voted against what the Bishop of Rome wanted and things like that. So when you look at that, you put it in context. You think that it is a spiritual something that comes through that to a lot of people for their beliefs and ideals, and as they find that religious nature in their spiritual nature.
All right, caller, thank you. You posed, I'm going to follow up on that caller's question. You mentioned Betty Eady.
Yeah.
I've, seen her account and heard it on CNN and elsewhere, Dannion, and your position earlier was that when people die, they will go through the same thing. They will go through what you went through, not once, but twice.
Yep.
So, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but I'll ask it. How then do you reconcile the Edie account with yours?
Well, there are 14 million of those accounts, and each person sees it different. I mean, they have those you have slight things that affect you in the early moments of you trying to comprehend the experience.
Is that your predisposition? In other words, if you're a very religious person, do you perceive the same experience that you had?
But you have to I would have to say that yes, because the makeup by which a lot of people are met by relatives. I've never been, to let you know what kind of person that I am, I've been over there twice and no relatives ever come to meet me yet.
Not yet, huh?
Okay. But a lot of people are met by relatives.
Were you favored by your family?
Well, I think they like me pretty well. But, you know, they knew what kind of kid I was. Well, a lot of people are met by their relatives.
Yes,
They're met by someone. Angels come to them. I've had people who I know weren't hallucinating, who breathed their last breath and talks to me about angels or their mom or the person that they would most need to come to them to help them know it was a safe journey. And I've heard them describe angels and their moms and beings of light. And I mean, I've been here for 17 years and 150 people and families and dealing with these issues. And I write about them. And in dealing with the issues, I have to say that there's some things about how people look at stuff. Because Betty, I like Betty Edie. I mean, I like her. A lot of their stuff I don't quite go along with. But you look at Betty knowing that she was an Indian raised in a Catholic mission where they beat it into you, then became a Mormon, you know, trying to find a religious context to put it in, and hers is a description of all of that. I mean, I can't say that it's different from me. But I'm going to stick with what I say.
All right, well, good enough. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Dannion Brinkley. Hi.
I'm on the air.
On the air you are, yes. Turn your radio off. Call the wild card lines, area 702-727-1295. We got to do that. The one thing we can't do is give last names on the air. So your name is my last name. Oh, I'm sorry. You're Paul where?
I'm in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Oh, La Crosse. Okay. Hi, Paul.
All right, line and all that there.
Yes, you're on.
Well, I've been listening, and what it is that he's a practical guy, and that I don't know. He has NDE, if his mind or his consciousness or spirit had been enlightened in any scientific or material insight into the physical universe. He mentioned things about the universe, and I was wondering if that came up at all in his insights or anything
Paul,
with the nature of, pardon me?
Yeah, see, listen to this. In the early days of this, I wrote in notebooks. I have notebooks of things that I scribbled down, but I still don't know what it means, because I would sit and day after day, like this went on, this went on for almost 2 years, where I was running to walk and pass it out. There were so many things that happened that I myself still can't comprehend what it means and how it relates, because I have no sister. Sure. But there was a time, Paul, on the other side, when I was moving toward the Crystal City. It was as though I could conceive of all things, that I literally could take a drop of water and break it down from hydrogen into oxygen, H2O, and then break down the molecular bonds and look at how many electrons was around each cell. And I could take and drop that drop of water into the ocean. And like this was knowledge, I could conceive of the entire ocean or in one drop at a time and everything that was in that ocean, and I could do it that fast.
Can you conceive of that kind of awareness? Yeah, go ahead.
That is mind expander there, but yesterday you talked about antimatter and possibly was detected in England. They thought they had a little bit of it.
No. They have, in fact, created antimatter for a very...
I've always
40 minutes to the second in Switzerland.
I've always been a science bug, and I was wondering if, when you talk about cosmology and astrophysics and...
but they always slip in...
particle physics.
Yes.
Some strange things are going on there. I was wondering...
But they're always slipping in this one simple phrase, parallel universes. For antimatter to exist, Paul, you must be defining a parallel universe. All right. Well, there are always what you go from quantum physics to dynamics to atomic physics and now atomic with nuclear physics, which is what's unlocking all the keys. The nuclear physics and biological physics are what's unlocking the key. When you look at them, it's talking about a paralleling universe, positive and negative, alternating frequency, yin and yang. Well, the fact that there is this side and then there is the spiritual side, how we deal with both sides as the intellectual side makes it positive. You have a proton, an electron, and a neutron, and our middle place is the neutron. A positive is the spiritual, our negative is the earth nature. Then when you look at yourself as that, you really get a grip on the dynamics of how very specific and defined that this integrated universe operates.
All right, here's a really good one for you then. Do you think it possible, Dannion, that science will ever, hard science now I'm talking about, just might, and wouldn't it be strange, breach scientifically that barrier that can only now be reached by, I guess, dying and going to another universe, or going to wherever we're going. Could science suddenly make that breakthrough? And
well, when you look at sciences in the nature of alternative therapies and compatible therapy, and then doing follow-up programs, you can watch things like meditation and guided imagery and aromatherapies. A lot of the things that are written about in the book that
we're going to could science suddenly make that breakthrough? And
well, when you look at sciences in the nature of alternative therapies and compatible therapies, and then doing follow-up programs, you can watch things like meditation and guided imagery and aromatherapies. A lot of the things that are written about in the book that I saw on the other side, the things that we didn't get to cover. You think you'll have me back sometime?
Oh, of course I will. In fact, I wish you don't want to do another hour, do you, Dan?
Yeah, I'll do another hour.
You do
another half hour.
All right. Well, if you're going to do a half hour, you might as well do an hour. You shouldn't do just half hours. You can do another hour standing on your head.
Okay, let's go.
You know you can. But what I mean is,
but we're going to get to talk to people. People are going to ask questions.
That's right. That's right. Well, could it happen? You apparently think it could sign someday.
Oh, it's there now. Look at remote viewing. Look at what's happening in remote viewing. Look at the work that Raymond Meady's doing in studies of psychomantiums and the ancient Greek oracles. Look at the work that regression therapy as a therapeutic modality is into place, and the result of that in dealing with chronic psychological problems, the fact that you had a past life that's possibly affected us, the work that Brian White is doing. Look at what James and Sally Redtail are doing. I mean, these are like good friends of mine. Look at Larry Dawsey putting prayer and medicine back in the earth. Oh, it's true.
A lot of people think that there are many people with this knowledge, Dannion, that are through programs like Nightline and all the rest of them that are breaking out, are preparing us to receive this information.
Oh, absolutely, they're doing it. I don't have any doubt about it. I'm full support that, like, UFOs, and I never believed any of this kind of stuff. I never, you couldn't get me. And I've been dead a couple of times, and I still didn't believe it. There's this stuff about UFOlogies and all the conspirologies, because when I worked in the intelligence, it was so compartmentalized, Art. It was so compartmentalized that it would be sometimes 10 years before I knew what I was doing when I was doing it there. I had, it was need to know. I had one job. I didn't know what everybody else was doing, and there might have been 30 people there.
All right, look. 7 minutes or something to just rest, and we'll be back to you, all right? What a compelling interview. Dannion Brinkley is my guest from South Carolina. And yes, we'll lay heavily on the phones in the next hour, which we just squeezed from him. You're listening to CBT. Oh, my guest is Dannion Brinkley. It is a rare, rare opportunity indeed for you to speak to him. And that phones just about entirely. So, Dannion, thank you, first of all, for staying another hour.
Thank you for having me, Art.
I had to squeeze pretty hard, but...
And thank all those people for allowing me into their lives. And I also would recommend everybody I mean, it's amazing. I love your sponsors. I would recommend everybody listening to pay attention to commodity. I mean, just for me, I'm not a financial advisor, and I'm not going to pretend to be one. But I would write for this kit. I would write for this kit. If everyone is out there listening who thinks I have any sense at all, look at commodities and be an expert in it. Because when paper doesn't have a value, when paper no longer has a value, where we live today and the new money and the new currencies being issued, in our everyday life,
It's going to come to that, isn't it?
oh, that boom is coming. It's already come to that. It's just realization of it. If I'm right, from looking at how the predictions are, what's happening in Japan now will just roll across Europe and into America, and we'll literally enter a depression, which for some people is the greatest moment they can have. So for people who are not really paying attention to their spiritual self and their mental unfoldment and what's trying to keep in control the massive explosion of spiritual growth, which is making us, like when you said us, the people who are 50 years old, 10,000 a day are turning 50 years old.
Oh, yeah.
This impact is the greatest impact in the history. Million Americans, and I think for 1940, 81 or 2 million Americans that can speak with a voice concerning death, concerning issues, the quality of life, and they must understand that that's their responsibility as spiritual beings, not just as citizens or patriots. They must. And when they look at it, I know I'm saying buy my book, but when you look at it.
Yeah, let's do that for a second. I mean, in a hard way. I've been meaning to do that. Two things are coming up. One is you're going to Las Vegas. I know you are, right?
Yeah.
When?
I'm going to Las Vegas on the 20th to deal with hospice and to talk about just tell my story and to talk about how and teach a technique that people can use in hospice work, because of if I think what I'm right about as we're into this economic depression.
So you're going to be speaking publicly?
Yeah.
I want to drag this from you. Where are you going to be and when? On the 20th? Do you know when?
20th, I'm in Las Vegas, and In Light Times magazine in Las Vegas is putting it on, and I don't know anything else about it.
All right. Well, I'll have to find out there. And
Melanie does that. I don't. I want to. I'm going there because of a group of people who are really interested in uplifting consciousness. They think that Las Vegas is a place that has a really high spiritual group of people in it. But when I was there, I went there for a show, and I never looked at it from any other point except to go in and do what I was doing and leave. But I went talking about the near-death experience, and I realized that a lot of people who go to Las Vegas, the closest they get to spirituality is Lady Luck. And I lived through part of that in the early days, which is like at peace in the light. But in the early days, how I would use a perceptive capability that I gained out of it to do things like that. Like I would be able to call blackjack, and I would bet on horses. I could deal with things that were alive, or I couldn't do roulette or numbers, but I could do living things. I could tell when or what was going to win, or call bowling games and pins and what would be left, and people would bet on it.
All right. Look, I'm going to make you do it. Your two books, Saved by the Light, and your new book, At Peace with the Light. These, I take it, what are they? Are they both HarperCollins?
HarperCollins, paperback.
Yeah. Well, I've got the hardback version of your new book. At any rate, they are available widely. People can go get them in just about any bookstore, right?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, that's good.
Thank you very much, Art. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for going and buying my book.
All right, west of the Rockies, you're on the air with Dannion Brinkley. Hello.
Hi, Art. This is Barbara in Oregon.
Barbara in Oregon.
Hi, Dannion. Art, first of all, I want to thank you for being so open-minded and having people like Dannion on your show.
Sure.
Dannion, I've written to you. I'm one of the probably many people who've written to you after they've seen you on TV, and I went to buy Saved by the Light, and it was sold out when it first came out. The clerk at the store asked, "What's the big deal with this book?" And
it sold a lot of coffee. It sold a couple million coffee.
Yeah, I wanted to stay to this. There's something. But I have a question. As a baby boomer, I was born in 1953. And as I look back over my life and, everything from having to get in the halls for air raid drills when I was younger and, moving through the 60s and the 70s, the whole thing, the rule changed and we're about to change again.
Drastically.
Okay. My parents tried to pass on what they thought was a set of enduring rules to me, and it never quite fit. About 10 years ago, I was kind of shaken awake. I call it kind of being spiritually kicked in the behind, to wake up.
Happens to a lot of us, honey. 180,000 votes to get me there.
Yeah. Mine wasn't as drastic as yours.
Yeah, thank God, because you're a lot smarter than me.
Well, it moved me around a little bit, but my question had to do with my kid. I don't know what to tell him. I don't know how to prepare my kid.
You let them read Saved by the Light. That's a good question. And you sit down and get your children involved. Say, hey, look, God, there's a little moral decay going on around here. But it's the opening void before a great spiritual awakening. The more information in 1 and 2 page paragraphs that a parent takes out and lays around the house, look at Celestine Prophecy, look at books and information that you put around the house that's just opening up their conscience. Put a couple of tabloids around. Get something that's short that they can read and look to cut to spiritual nature. Because the moment that those are ancient and powerful spiritual beings, as surely as they are your children, and your job is to give them as much open access to what is spiritual.
So in other words,
Experience.
in other words, don't underestimate their ability to.
Oh, absolutely not. They rolling in. They're here for the same reason you're here, sister. They're here because they come to prepare for a series of events that will occur after 2004 to 2014. I don't really know what's going to be all of that, Robert. See, I don't know, but I know up to 2004 what's going to be happening. But by the year 2009, 10, or 11, we will be in a spiritual position so unique and so unfathomable by us at this point that it's useless to think about it. It's dealing with every day. The more information that these kids have about spirituality, not morality, because they live in a world where all that kind of been pushed aside.
What do you see between now and 2004?
Who, Barbara?
No, you. What do you see between now and 2004? You said you
I see some of the wildest stuff in the world, but I see the potential for us as a group, we the baby boomers, a potential group of spiritual warriors that came here that can really change the course of history towards spirituality. And because we must face our own reality, I uniquely, among others, have seen how the system works and what the reward system is. And what I write and what I talk about is, listen, guys, we're out here and we're going to deal with these things whether we want to or not. We might as well deal with them as they truly are in the spiritual context, which makes everything else less as painful.
all right.
We're going through evolution of our government. We don't have a government anymore. It's collapsed.
All right, but here, Billy from El Paso asks a good question, one that everybody's asking. I'm surprised your guest hasn't mentioned God or his creator with reference to his near-death experiences. It seems to me that his whole approach is very secular, even with respect to the, quote, being, end quote, that he saw. Is that the way you would describe what occurred to you? Secular?
Well, no, because you see, I said when we were prefacing as we began, I said this is 20 years later. To describe the near-death experience is to describe that there is a great and powerful loving Lord God, and that there is a life after death, and is a system that is so wonderful and so spiritual. I can't use the term God so much, although I know there is a God, but I didn't see God. I saw the most wondrous series of events in this world of how a person leaves this world. And then has been a hospice volunteer dying with people and living right there with them as they're breathing in and out their last breaths and the conversations and the things. And some I got to know for years, some I only knew for one day. Now, how do I take what I've learned And how do I take what I know and apply it in this world every day so that we're growing spiritually before we get to the other side to prepare us? And that's what my whole nature is about. But I mean, that's what I thought we've been talking about. But there's a great and wondrous God. There's a great and powerful spiritual nature that is also us.
I respect your right to describe it in the way that you recall it, and there will be a lot of people out there who all know that just can't handle that. Well, they want it described in terms that will give them comfort, and I understand that, and I don't put them down at all for it, but they're just never going to agree, and they're going to say, come on, Dannion, say it. It was God. If you don't say it, then it's a bunch of bunk you're saying.
Okay, if that'll help them find them spirits of self, it was God. It was God. I want people to listen, Art. My mission is that people don't die alone.
I hear you.
My mission is to get my generation in the street, learning how to deal with this issue and to use techniques that I've learned from being on both sides. But I know what it's like to be afraid, pal. I know what it's like to fake death. I know what it's like to die. I know what it's like to see the other side. I know what it's like to have to come back and live and to go through years of pain and stuff to get to where I am and to be able to look at it. But all that everybody's going to get to do. We're all going to go through that process. We're all going back over there. But I better talk to people about how to use it here. You better write about how to use it here. Better not philosophize. Better say this is the way, and then you can get out and you can test it. We have a faith system that they built our beliefs off of: institutions, religions, and government. That's right. That is crumbling. We must have a belief system that we can put our faith in, and I'm trying from just what one fool from South Carolina had happened to him, put us in a context with people just who are like I am.
Okay, about that, you're dead right, Dannion. Remember, because you and I'm a little older than you are, you remember early on when you were young, you remember the FBI, for example, would come out and there would be a television news bulletin and they'd come to the podium and they would make a statement. It was like the FBI would say something and it was like it was written, on a tablet and brought down. I mean, you could believe it, flat out believe it. The institution of the FBI, unquestioned. The president,
They were lying then.
unquestioned. Well, yeah, that may be, but the institution or a concept of the institutions is crumbling all around us.
Absolutely, the way it should be. In order for the new to live, the old must surely pass away.
All right, look, I promise phone calls. East to the Rockies, you're on the air with Dannion Brinkley. Hello.
Yes.
Oh, yes, sir. My name is Dak, and I'm also a baby boomer. You're a baby boomer. Where are you?
In Boulder,
Colorado. All right.
Hi, brother.
Hi.
Well, good evening, both these gentlemen. I on the other hand, really feel that I can understand what you're saying because it resonates from a kind of non-theistic point of view, and it also resonates with the Tibetan take on death, and they've sort of developed a science of dying even since the 8th century with the Tibetan Book of the Dead and so on. And you really do agree from what you've been saying on two very important points. One is that what you experience at that time of death is, whether it be peaceful or wrathful, is yourself.
Right, that the mind aware, but people feel that enormous amount of love, and that's how they describe it. What they don't really realize is they're feeling themselves for the first time in about 70 or 80 years.
Yes, and the other thing that you're in agreement with this book from the 8th century is that the mind does not die. And I have one simple question to ask you, basically, and what will help us or me when we die? What helps the person when they die?
Hospice work, listen to me, Jack, to go today and become a hospice volunteer and to read chapter 9, just go to the bookstore and just read chapter 9 in that Peace in the Like and try the technique. You will all of a sudden have begun to create the greatest position for you to open up your consciousness when you're dealing with an issue of a person leaving this world. They're having and they talk about their life and you listen. You both have panoramic life reviews You're assisting them in having one before they go to the other side. They, in that same moment, are assisting you in reviewing your life compared to theirs. That is one of the greatest, most awesome learning experiences for somebody in our generation to come, because we're not going to have to deal with our moms and dads. We're going to deal with our brothers and sisters, and then maybe even ourselves.
But can another person do the kind of work you're doing without having experienced what?
Oh, absolutely. You can. It's like getting all the benefits from what I went through and not have to pay the medical bill. You know, I don't recommend. I have what I call the Dannion long course and the Dannion short course, right? The Dannion long course is listen to 3 hours of you and I talk. The Dannion short course is stick a screwdriver in a 440 outlet. Any way you want to learn it, it beats me, and we'll all just stand around. I'll wait for you to get up. I don't have a problem about it. I want people to say, okay, let's see what happened to this fool, and let's listen to what he's done with it, and let's look at that, and then let's try. If he's really done this stuff, and he's been doing this for 20 years, and, you know, he's been really doing this, then why not? Let's try it. If he figures as it took him 20 years to figure out what good it is to know that there's a life after death, not be caught up in that it is, but anybody who's listening or who's not listening to think there's not a life after death, that's a fool.
All right, a personal, hard question for you, Dan.
No, I love it.
And then this is, have you ever examined your own reason for doing the work with the dying, all this hospice work? Are you certain that you are not trying to confirm what you believe to be true through your two experiences? In other words, that half of your work is for you.
Oh, I would say that all of it's for me. That's not the reason, but it's just as selfish as you can possibly be. I honestly admit, and I write in the book that I admit the other side so much. But the closest, when I first started doing hospice work, well, after the first one or two people, which were friends of my father, how I started hospice work was my father asked me to go see somebody that was a friend of his that was in his 80s, and that I had watched through the years the friendship between my father and this person, and because I've helped a bunch of people, you know, deal with this, he said, would you go and talk to this friend of his? And I went, and that's how I started hospice. But as I got into it, I realized that I missed that place so much that that's why I did it. I like to be around that place because I can experience a lot of what I experienced.
Must be a great comfort for a lot of people. Bottom of the hour clock, I have to pay attention to it. Dannion Brinkley is my guest. He'll be right back. I'm Art Bell. Oh, yeah, and by the way, you can begin calling that number now if you wish. Dannion, this question, have you ever heard of any NDE, near-death experiences, where one does not remember seeing anything, but actually has gone through some sort of transformation from a near-death experience?
Melvin Morris and Ken Ring write a lot about that. In Melvin Morris's book, Closer to the Light, he talks about kids changing and never remembering until they're like 6 and 7 years old what happened, and some people changing and going back into hypnosis, being realized they had a near-death experience. But a lot of people block it out because dealing with being on the other side makes it really hard to do the stuff that you came back for. But a lot of people say they've been given a choice on it. You know, it's really systematic and wondrous about how the near-death experience affords such a comfort and understanding that we don't die, so we can get on about living. But a lot of people, when they're dealing with it, they are given a choice whether to come or to stay. No one ever gave me a choice, because if somebody had given me a choice, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
You'd be gone.
Oh, you can forget this. What I mean, I wouldn't even think about it. And that's the first time. The second time, when I was given a choice, but it's not really was a choice, I wanted to come back. I would not miss these times, and with what I go through, I wouldn't miss these times and the chance for it to spiritually evolve from what I've seen through all the events that are coming. I wouldn't miss them to go back over there and stay. This is the greatest time for growth and unfoldment and understanding, and the greatest opportunity that we as physical, mental, spiritual beings will ever get.
Yeah, these are going to be interesting years, aren't they?
Well, these are the most the next 10 or 12 years are they going to be the most wondrous the ever-evolving, erupting, changing, chaotic, horrendous, marvelous, terrific time that's been, I mean, I don't think that's ever come since the
I know.
the
I've not had your experiences, but I certainly can feel that that's true. East to the Rockies, back home, Dannion. Duplin. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Dannion Brinkley. Hello.
Hello, Art.
Where are you, sir?
I'm calling from Ohio.
WJR country from Detroit, I bet.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Hello, Dannion. I really enjoyed watching your movie on TV.
Thank you very, very much. I thought Eric did a good job.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's hard watching yourself in 2-hour TV movies and things like that, but I think it came across a lot of what I felt, of what really happened to me, you know.
Fairly representative.
Yeah, it was did a pretty good job. I was a lot worse than they made me out to be. I was a lot bigger jerk than even, but I was. I mean, you know,
that kind of leads into my question to you, Dannion. Is do you think that the way we act is mainly the effect of past lives that we have lived? And I also wanted to ask you if you were familiar with mental procedures called Avatar.
All right, thank you. Avatar, does that ring a bell?
oh yeah. And the other question
Past
was,
lives.
yeah, the other question was this. I believe that as I watch regression therapy, and I'm watching it, and with Winifred Lucas and Brian Weiss and some of the people who are monsters in the field.
Sure.
And it's because I get to them because I'm like a big shot now. I get to walk up to them and ask them questions, you know. And before, you know, I'm just this little guy. I'm still this little guy, but I walk up to them and I can talk to them now. And I listen to these people speak very sanely, and how regression therapy as a therapeutic modality is seriously helping people get over a lot of things, a lot of problems that they're having emotionally and psychologically. So I can't deny it. I don't believe that everything is rooted in our past. I'm not a karma believer. I'm not a person that believes in karma, that you gotta always keep coming back here till you get it right, because from what I saw, those of us who are here would never come for that reason. It would have to be less than 10 or 15% for you to come back, to keep doing it till you get it right. But your first and main mission is the evolution of the spiritual nature of all of creation. And somehow, through some dynamic, this Earth's life does that for this particular system of spiritual growth. And that we're in this one little planet, in a group of planets. I don't think we're by ourselves anymore, but we're in this particular group operating in our identity. And that in itself is one of the most powerful things that exist. That's the most powerful, in that we are here. And so all of us that are here are that way. So when you say that you come back over and over, or reincarnation for the stuff from past life experiences, because you were here first to fight and to protect and keep a certain light that perform a certain function. You're here second for yourself and serves for some kind of something you might have felt bad about, or something you had to keep doing. Because by the time you got here, you were ancient and powerful and wondrous.
All right.
It is not the place for the little league. This is the big league.
All right. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Dannion Brinkley. Where are you, and who are you, please?
My name is Peggy. I'm from Ogden, Utah.
All right, Peggy.
Hi, Peggy.
Speak up good and loud.
Okay, I'm a fan of yours, Art. I love your show.
Thank you.
I've got a quick comment and then a question. I'm a nurse, and I take care of a lot of hospice-type patients, and I would encourage the public, the listening audience, to get involved. There's nothing more rewarding than that.
Yay!
Yeah.
No doubt. See, if we can get people to pay attention to, and when you look at it from how I see it, that one day you're going to be those people. Can you imagine a guy in 1975 getting to be the people whose lives he brutalized and literally destroyed, and some he had killed? Then 14 years later, getting to be the person that when I walk in that room, they have nobody, right? The children dropped them off at the emergency room. They've been in this nursing home for 10 years, and no one's ever come to see them until I've come to see them. And I get them because they have 3 weeks left to live. And to know that I'm going to be that person one day doesn't make me real heroic to do the work that we do, Barbara. It doesn't make it bad. It just makes people understand that we have to get back touching our spiritual self.
Okay, here's my question. When you had your...
Will you agree with that?
I do agree with that.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, there's nothing, there's death is not the worst thing in the world.
Oh.
It is not. Some of the poor existence many people have to suffer through. Now, when you had your near-death experience, when you talked about seeing the people that you had encountered, now, what about the people that you had joy with? The happy times?
I had that too, but I had both of those. I just didn't have a lot of those the first time. I didn't have a lot of being nice to people in the first near-death experience.
So, in other words, you saw what was there and what had been there. What was not that joyful.
There you see everything. It's not really. I'm not trying to get anybody to believe that it's a hellish experience. Mine was, because of just the type of personality I was. There, you're going to get to be the people you've helped. Imagine this. You're going to get a chance to feel the love, care, and concern you've given every person that you've helped in this situation as a nurse. You're going to literally be them. And think of the joyous moments of you when you held somebody's hand or you pat them on the shoulder or you just checked on them one day, which is to them the most glorious moments in their whole existence, or that you listen to them talk for 5 minutes. You're going to get to be that and feel the joy and wonderment. People have to understand that when you have your life pass before you and you see it, you don't just see it from a bunch of those events. You see it from there. Let's say, and this is the best way to put it, if God couldn't come today, and God sent you, and you are the difference that God makes in the events you're now witnessing, what difference did God make through you as you are judging you? And that's how people are going to look at it, that we are really insignificant. It's as if we were the difference that God made in every event of everything that we watch in this panoramic life review, and you'll be amazed at how literally insignificant you are in the panoramic life review as of what you symbolically represent here in this physical plane.
Okay, here's a real literal question for you, Dannion. Please ask Dannion to go through, and year by year, through the future events that he has seen, those that have not yet occurred. Would you care to give that even a try?
Oh, I don't even want to. I'm not going to do that, except that I can tell people what to watch out, because I'm not going to do. I've done that. It's written down.
All right, well, give them the best watch out then. Short version.
Well, I'll give you the best version. The best version is get involved in hospice work and start dealing with death as an issue. Number one, point blank, don't keep waiting for things to happen all around you. Deal with the one issue that gives you the peace, control, and confidence within yourself, death. Regardless of what it is, deal with that. Once you deal with that, as you look at each other scenario, Bosnia, this will either erupt into a war or it'll become a peaceful place. It will either let you watch Kabul. Whoever wins the war in Afghanistan will start, and then what will happen if we're not careful is it Serbs, which are Christians, killing Bosnians, which are Muslims, they will react, and the Middle East will react and begin to polarize. What is going to happen is in Jerusalem, within the next 14 or 15 months, it will become the center of the earth again. It will do this because Jerusalem will become almost like a papacy. It will take on this like a holy see, the city within a city, and be administrated by religion, dealing with either the Palestinian or Islamic faith, the Jewish faith, and the Christian faith, either with the Eastern Orthodox Church or the Catholic Church. I believe it'll be a combination of both. When that occurs, all that other stuff as the earthquakes begin, and now the West Coast earthquake all the way over and all the way up and down our coast and the coast of Central and South America, then an influx of more immigrants will start pouring in. And what we don't really watch out, then as the new money is being issued, we keep putting tighter controls. The keys is healthcare, and being able to pay attention to health care and being able to keep your mind realizing that they, as the new Medicaid and Medicare plans come into existence, and this year, not 5 years from now, year by year, because if you deal with these issues, and we stand up and face and read and look at these issues like Senate Bill 1035, which deals with access to medical treatment acts,
Right.
that you don't support these kinds of bills and look at these kinds of bills, and it doesn't make any difference what's going to happen. You will have lost your right to control your own destiny.
All right. Phone.
How was that?
That was excellent. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Dannion Brinkley. Hello.
Oh, this is Manny from Houston, Texas.
Hi, Daddy.
Hi, Dannion. Listen, Dannion, I read your book 2.5 times, and I think it's very electrifying.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted
No pun on word.
I'm sorry. I just wanted like to point out that Dr. Moody might have had it play wrong. He's called them NED. Perhaps I should label them END. N. Experience near death. N. Get it?
Well, I call them near-life experiences because I was more alive when I was on the other side than I ever was here. And when I talk to in my lectures, man, as I listen, I tell people, I said, look, this is dead. I say, listen, I don't want to get anybody really depressed or anything, but let me tell you something. This is as dead as you're ever going to get.
We are the dead.
You're right now as dead as you're ever going to get. You'll never get any more dead than Ziv. And once you realize that,
I like that.
but it's the truth.
Well, I like it.
And once you realize that, you got to realize that forever is not near as long as you think it is. It's a whole lot longer. And you're going to have to find out you're going to find a lot of stuff to do. Keep yourself busy if you're going to be around forever.
So we're actually room temperature right now.
98.2.
Metaphorical room temperature.
Oh, yeah.
East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Dannion Brinkley. Hello.
Hey, how you doing? This is Pete from Who Dat?
Who that down in...
Do what? Michael Ead at Inlight Con.
Is there a phone number or something?
Thank you. And thanks for letting me into the hearts and minds of your audience. And I wrote down all 800 numbers.
You made it. Thanks, Dannion.
Bye, guy.
Have a good night. Dannion Brinkley, BBC. We'll be right back.
I'll tell you right now, Linda Moulton Howe has an interview coming up with Jesse Marcel Jr. here in a few moments. You don't want to miss that. My main guest tonight is going to be Dannion Brinkley, and you definitely don't want to miss that. I'm going to update you on several things. First, I'm going to welcome some new affiliates to the network. KLDI in Laramie, Wyoming. Good to have you on board. 1210 on the AM dial in Laramie. Then there's KDTH in Dubuque, Iowa. 1370 on the dial there. Welcome. And WMIX AM in Mount Vernon, Illinois. 940 on the dial. Welcome. Good to have you all on board. It's going to be a very busy night. I do want to begin the program by saying last week a most incredible thing occurred to me. And that is I received a 3-page letter from a man who claims that his grandfather was on the retrieval team at Roswell. Accompanying the letter was the most incredible array of what is claimed to be crash debris from Roswell that I've ever seen. I am taking the following steps. Number one, the materials are still available to be viewed by Vidian. If you have the Vidian video program, you can call the number and see the debris. Now, the detail available by this method is, of course, somewhat limited. Television. So, I have taken a series of 35mm photographs. Those are due to be developed and back tomorrow. As soon as I get those, they should be in quite a bit greater detail, obviously. I'm going to scan them in and get them up on my webpage. We are hoping to be able to achieve that by tomorrow night. It'll be tough. We'll see. In addition, these materials are going to be tested. The details of that testing I am not going to make public at this point for a lot of what should be obvious reasons. This metal is very unusual indeed. Light as a feather, and I won't go into a full description of it right now. I've done that. But it is remarkable, let me tell you that. The other remarkable occurrence at the end of last week was the NBC Dateline show in which Apollo 14 astronaut Edgar Mitchell did a 180-degree turnaround with regard to a couple of items. One will highlight what Linda's going to do, and that is the Roswell incident, which he now declares to be real, and that there is definitely, in his opinion, a cover-up with regard to that. Indeed, he feels the Earth is being visited by others. He's an Apollo 14 astronaut, and he says that also is being covered up, and that he believes the U.S. is utilizing technology gleaned from those people. So all of that is going on, and that's quite a bit of news. We'll get to Linda Moulton Howe in just a moment. Now to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Linda Howe. Hi, Linda. Oh, he says. There you are.
Can you hear me okay now?
Just fine.
All right. Well, this weekend I was a guest of the Spanish television network Telemundo in Miami. Producer Alberto Leyes is putting together a special which will be broadcast next Friday throughout Latin America and parts of the United States about the Chupacabras mystery. My participation included showing photographs of deer and foxes in England with odd bloodless puncture holes in the middle of their foreheads, similar to some of the rabbits and other unusual animal deaths that have been blamed on the Chupacabras in Puerto Rico and in other countries. One of the guests on the show was criminal police detective Rivera Diaz of Carolina, Puerto Rico, who discussed his own sighting the beginning of this year. The new aspect of his report, which is now just emerging, was seeing the feathers or spikes along the unknown creature's back move while making a strange rustling sound, and even as strange as this sound, the policeman insists that he saw these feathers or these spines glowing with light. Then Agent Diaz said the creature rose straight up into the air and either flew away or disappeared. He was not certain which. He videotaped with Telemundo a lie detector test, which will be part of the Telemundo special. And if this is true, Art, glowing feathers or spines that can lift a humanoid-like creature is not a description that is found in zoology books.
Indeed.
And as we all discussed in Miami, what is this chupacabras of Puerto Rico, the chupala of Mexico, and the chupa chupa of Brazil? All names related to something that sucks tissue and fluid from its victims, according to a few eyewitnesses. And tonight I heard from international investigator Antonio Huneas, who just returned from a conference in San Jose, Costa Rica, that double puncture holes have been found in the neck of animals there near the Capitol. And apparently there will be more reporting about this in a future journal. He said there were dozens of stories about it in the Capitol. And what we're all trying to understand is some of it contamination because of the Puerto Rico sort of sometimes sensationalized tabloid reporting, or are we truly getting reports from as many varied countries now as Colombia, Ecuador, Panama, the nation of Mexico, Puerto Rico, and perhaps some areas in the southern part of the United States? And this is a story that is unfolding. It is not over, and I'll keep trying to report. But also in the news are the alleged fragments from UFO crashes, which have come to you, and the one that the Roswell UFO Museum has.
Right.
And remember, a couple of weeks ago, I interviewed the museum secretary-treasurer, Max Littell, and two scientists who had examined that copper and silver fragment. Physics professor C.B. Moore was not certain what it is, but hypothesized it might be a piece of microphone diaphragm from a radio transmitter used in the once top-secret high-altitude balloon experiments called Project Mogul that most of us have read about. Well, Max Littell sent a photograph of this artifact to Dr. Jesse Marcel, Jr., son of the late Jesse Marcel, who worked in Air Force intelligence and who traveled to the ranch between Corona and Roswell in early July 1947, where the rancher Mac Brazel said that he found this material. And there, Jesse Marcel Sr. and others gathered fragments of what was called a crashed flying saucer. Jesse Marcel Sr. took several fragments and small, thin, I-beam-like structures home to show his family. His young son, Jesse Jr., had his hands on several of the pieces that his father brought to the house. And today, I talked with Dr. Marcel about how he would compare what he saw with his own eyes to the unidentified artifact delivered to the Roswell Museum. And now, Dr. Jesse Marcel, Jr.
it resembles a lot of stuff that was there, metal fragments. So it's kind of a generic description. I can't say absolutely yes that it was part of the wreckage, or absolutely no, it wasn't. It just, I don't recall seeing a copper coloration to it like that piece apparently has, but that's neither here nor there. It certainly could have been another part of the wreckage, but I can't say yes or no, but it does resemble a lot of what I had seen, with the exception of the copper coloring on it.
Now, did you personally handle the debris that night when your dad brought it home?
Yes.
And did you experience crumpling some and it flexing out?
No, I did not. No, all I did was handle it. I looked at it. I didn't try to tear it or do anything with it except just handle it and then kind of look at it, kind of wondering what the stuff is.
And the color you remember?
Is more like a dull aluminum finish. It wasn't really reflective, it's kind of more of a dull aluminum. I guess, if you want to take an aluminum wrap, a core wrap, one side is real shiny, the other side is kind of dull.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be more like the dull side.
Okay. And could you describe again, were you looking or handling those pieces that appear to be torn as well as those little tiny I-beams, and could you describe them again?
Well, again, the metal, the foil-like remnant was just exactly that. It looked like pieces of a type of metal foil, very thin and very light. I did not try to bend it, press it like other people had. All that hurt, later that people had, but I did not do that myself. And there's a lot of that kind of debris. And then, of course, the I-beam, or what I recall is I think, that's my memory now, that it was an I-beam. But it was a beam that had some writing along the inside surface of it.
And it was about how wide, the beam?
Well, I would say 3/8 of an inch wide, in inch dimension with, or maybe not quite 3/8.
And
maybe close to a quarter.
And the color of the symbols was?
Oh, they were violet, purple, hues.
Not coppery?
Not copper, no. Definitely not coppery.
And so from your memory of what your dad brought home that night, there was nothing that had a copper and silver mix?
That's what I remember. Of course, it was under kitchen lights and, just a regular incandescent light, but I don't recall seeing coppery type tones to it.
In terms of your father or you or anybody having secretly kept any part of that over all these years, with all these pieces emerging, would you be willing to say now if you or your father kept any?
No, we definitely did not keep any, because we kept, when we finished looking at it, we put it back in the boxes and put it back in the cart and took off with it. So, but definitely did not keep any pieces of it.
And in terms of remembering any discussion by your father about whether or not he learned of any laboratory results?
He never confided that with me. The one thing that we did do shortly before he died, maybe a year or two before he died, was to kind of compare our mental notes on the thing as to what it looked like, the color of writing in the I-beam or the beam, whatever, and the description of the metal foil. We compared notes with that. And we both recall the same.
Since there is now, what appears to be anyway, testimony emerging that would say that there were a number of crash sites in different localities, and even confusion now about whether there was a crash site between Corona and Roswell, or a crash site that was further toward the Capuan Mountain. Do you know right now, could you say whether your father ever defined the latitude and longitude where he was?
He never told me about that. He did say, I think he was involved in only one collection area, and that was one on Brazel's Ranch.
So there you have this from Dr. Jesse Marcel Jr., which is one of the few people alive who allegedly had their hands on some kind of crash debris
from what was described as a flying saucer in the early part of July 1947.
All right, Linda, let me just quickly jump in and ask you a favor. When you get the photographs, which through the internet or otherwise, you will have very soon of the debris that I have, hopefully you can get that to him as well, because what I've got here sounds more like what he says he saw.
All right. Well, this will be very interesting. And depending upon his response, I'll also put that on an upcoming Dreamland. I think we're at a time where art, a couple of things could be happening. Some real debris from something not terrestrial. It could be in a number of hands, and somebody may also have decided that then the entire market has to be flooded with all kinds of stuff in order to muddy the waters again. And that's what we all have to be doing, is separating the wheat from the chaff as best we can.
Yes, this could have been sent to me for any reason, Linda. And I certainly know that. It could be as false as a $3 bill. I know that. Or it could be the real thing. I mean, it's as Max down in New Mexico says, it's either trash or treasure.
And we got to keep trying to push with some facts to find out. And so we will see how this goes, and I will make sure I get the photograph to him on yours.
And by the way, if you want information on Linda's materials, we'll tell you how to get that by phone. But she has a section on my webpage now, and you'll see a shiny-faced, easy to look at Linda Howe standing right in the middle of a field that has experienced... That was... Can you tell us, by the way... what field was that? It was in England somewhere, wasn't it?
Yes, and if people misunderstood last week, I meant that I was standing inside of, and I will be sending some photographs so people can see what this magnificent formation looked like from the air also and on the ground. But I'm standing inside what to me is the most beautiful formation that I've ever seen at Churchill, which is not too far from Avebury, that many people have visited or have heard about, one of the oldest and most mysterious cities in that part of Wiltshire. And that particular formation is also where Dr. W.C. Levengood, the biologist in Michigan, found some very interesting effects in the plants and has done a paper about a very odd magnetic glaze that was found on some other wheat, not in exactly that same crop circle, but about a mile or 3/4 of a mile further away at approximately that same time. So something very unusual happened in that Churchill area that summer of '93 when I was there investigating.
All right, I'm sure everybody would love to see the entire crop circle, so if you can get that photo to Keith, we'll get it up on your page.
I will.
All right, that webpage is my webpage, which is www.artbell.com. www.artbell.com on the World Wide Web, and I think you'll enjoy it. And we'll get photographs of the material I have, if possible, up there tomorrow night. Linda, how else do they contact you other than the web?
Thanks, Art. One of the best and fastest ways is my toll-free 800 number, 707-9993, toll-free 800-707-9993, and my mailbox is Post Office Box 300 in Jameson, Pennsylvania, zip code 18929. That's Post Office Box 300, Jameson, Jamison, Pennsylvania, zip code 18929. And Art, we have many mysteries here that we're tracking, and it will be interesting to see how they unfold in the next few weeks.
One other thing to mention before we go, we have just about a minute here, and that is the remarkable statements made by astronaut Mitchell on NBC's Dateline. I presume you're going to try to get hold of Mr. Mitchell and follow that one up, too.
Yes, and I think that that is a real step forward because I know that I have privately talked with other astronauts off the record who have at least this much they have confirmed, that there have been odd and unidentified things that they have photographed or seen, but they have not been allowed to be reported and described as such. And maybe this is going to be another part of the beginning of what Dr. Marcel told me tonight. He said, Linda, maybe I'm wrong, but he says, I feel like everything is bubbling more and that something about this story has finally got to break open for real.
All right. Linda, it's been very productive. I particularly enjoyed the interview with Jesse Marcel Jr.
Good.
Thank you. By next week, we'll no doubt have more to report. Linda Moulton Howe, Emmy Award-winning investigative journalist. Thanks, Linda.
You're welcome.
Take care. See you next week. All right, there you are. Coming up on tonight's Dreamland is Dannion Brinkley. He's really something. Just back from Lima, Peru, and we're going to catch him about an hour and a half or so off the airplane. I'm Art Bell. This is Dreamland.
From the Kingdom of Nye, you're hearing Dreamland with Art Bell. To participate in the program, call toll-free 1-800-618-8255. 1-800-618-8255. First-time callers, area code 702-727-1222. Or the wildcard line at 702-727-1295. This is the CBC Radio Network.
Certainly is. Best-selling author and world-renowned speaker Dannion Brinkley lives in South Carolina. That's where he does hospice work, carries on the work he was called to do, and researches alternative medical therapies. Brinkley works closely with the National Institutes of Health, Board of Compatible and Alternative Medicine to create a better perspective on wellness. Dr. Raymond Moody's most noted student of the near-death experience. Dannion's had 2 near-death experiences after being struck by lightning and during open-heart surgery, 14 years apart. He is the co-author of the international bestseller, Saved by the Light, and on a regular basis around the national media circuit. He's lectured at numerous colleges and universities, has appeared on such national TV shows as Oprah, Larry King Live, and Unsolved Mysteries. In a moment, Dannion Brinkley. GMX is a magnetic water conditioner, and there are many who have reservations or doubts, and I was one of those people, until they put it in my home. There's nothing like seeing to believe. I'm going to give you the same opportunity. Well, all right, here we go. To Dannion Brinkley. I know he's back from Lima, Peru. Hi, Dannion.
Hi, Art Bell.
I don't know where you are, though. Where are you?
I'm in Miami.
Miami?
Yeah, I just came from Machu Picchu.
What in the world were you doing in Peru?
Well, since I wrote Saved by the Light and then At Peace in the Light, I'm always looking to explore, to understand from different perspectives some of the things that happen to a person when they have a near-death experience. And since I was struck by lightning, somehow in the course of this, I came across the fact that there are cultures that have whole scenarios, whole histories of a lightning shaman, persons that are struck by lightning. So I was studying the Inca culture, and the whole history of the Inca culture was a man struck by lightning, and that has determined the shamans or the healers or the leaders or whatever it is that you would title that person. And then I saw Machu Picchu, and the person who built Machu Picchu was struck by lightning, and lightning determined, and I was thinking of the crystal cities, and I started looking at the shamanistic cultures of lightning shamans, and just like Machu Picchu, it would appear to me as I stand down and they just discovered that there were that the color of this place, this ruin, was once blue and white plaster. And I could imagine it sitting in the side of the mountain, much like the crystal cities I saw in the first near-death experience. So I began to study this stuff. Art, I've spent 20 years looking at the near-death experience, knowing everyone in the world, and having been going through 2 of them myself, written 2 books about it, been a hospice volunteer for 17 years. Nurse home volunteer for 12 years, and been with 152 people, well, 151 because my new friend, she's still here, but have been through 152 people leaving this world and all the various interactions between the family members and the psychologies, and I've learned it pretty well, looking at alternative therapies, and I'm really active in trying to pursue and protect our rights because of the visions in the first near-death experience.
All right, now, let me stop you there, and because there is so much new audience out there, Dannion, if you could, give us a description of what happened to you as a basis for where we're going here.
Okay. First, I'd like to say that every new person listening to the Art Bell Show has made a smart move. He's a terrific person. He covers a broad range of subjects, and he's very conservative and very straightforward, but he's not afraid to face any issues. I'm Dannion Brinkley.
Check's in the mail.
Well, it's still true, Art. You're one of the best, but I'm just a typical everyday guy from South Carolina who in 1975 spent the early part of his life basically as a complete jerk, who had no interest in metaphysics or spiritual things, religion, or any of that kind of business. And then I never would have thought about it till one afternoon in September I was talking on the telephone. And just like anyone would talk on the telephone, I heard a little thunder, and I decided to get off of the phone, and all of a sudden, lightning struck the phone line. It came down the phone line. It hit me in the neck. It went down my spine. It welded nails to the heels of my shoes to the nails in the floor. It throws me in the air, suspends me in the air, and slams me back down.
It welded your shoes to the floor.
Well, the key was if I had Bass Weegens on, which in those days they nailed the heels.
Right.
And I happened to be those nails happened to be over nails that held the flooring down in the house.
Yeah, lightning seeks ground.
And it grounded itself, and it welded the shoes, or I would have exploded. It was somewhere around 180,000 volts.
Wow.
Well, I mean, this is what happened. All of a sudden, I'm slammed back down. I'd never heard of near-death experience. I'm burning. I'm on fire. I don't know what to do and which way to go. And I'd never heard of near-death experience, and I wouldn't have believed it if someone had told it to me. But then I had it. All of a sudden, I'm in this blue-gray place from burning, searing pain, not knowing what to do, which way to go, how to react, just not trying desperately to get my bearings.
Conscious at that point?
Oh, I was conscious. You never lose
to have that much pain, remember that pain, you would have had to have been conscious.
Yeah, you never, you're always conscious. It doesn't happen, you're always conscious. Then I'm floating. I roll over, I see myself lying across the bed. I hear my wife telling me that lightning had struck very near the house. The guy on the other end of the phone comes over. To give you an impact of that, I was dead for 28 minutes. No pulse, no respiration, no heartbeat.
28 minutes?
Mm-hmm. When it says an admission slip into the hospital, it says patient unconscious, patient not breathing, patient no EKG. And
that's usually called patient dead.
Yeah, exactly, but they don't ever say that in hospitals.
Uh-huh.
That's not something that they ever say, even when you're having an autopsy, they still don't say it.
But that's on your hospital record.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no question. It happened at a medical university. I have like 176 pages. The things that happened to me weren't just happened in the woods somewhere. I was struck by lightning. I was dead for 28 minutes. I was completely paralyzed for 6 days. I was partially paralyzed for 7 months. It took me 2 years to learn to walk and feed myself, and I lost more than 60 pounds, and there's medical records of it every day. It's not like, I just came up out of the woods one day with this story.
Well, did you ask any of the medical people? I mean, after 28 minutes, Dannion, there should have been irreversible brain damage at room temperature.
Well, it's a lot of true, and, a lot of times people say there's oxygen brain deprivation that causes near-death experiences, and after 5 minutes you have brain damage, but I never argue that point, because, that could be part of my problem. But the key is that they're resuscitating people now, Art, up to 3 hours. The old adage of 5 minutes to the brain is just not true anymore, because of ventilators, because of things that you can do, because of determining where the body is, and because we have such advancements in cardiopulmonary resuscitation, that the point of death or the moment of death is no longer as stable as the 5-minute theorem that was advanced about 15 years ago. People have to remember that the near-death experience, Art, is a byproduct of the advancement of cardiopulmonary resuscitation in the world of medicine. Why people are having this is because it's being so widespread is because of the advancement of medicine. So, everyone knows that I am pro-medicine in some aspects, and I'm very adverse to medicine in other aspects, in dealing with extended life by any means necessary. I'm an advocate of living wills and AMAs, because I think it's really important to the fact that I've been struck by lightning, I've been clinically dead. I did the standard system that would occur. I floated above myself. I watched them work on me. I watched the amazement that comes in seeing yourself as a spiritual being. I watched them load me in the ambulance. A tunnel forms. I move down this tunnel. I come into the place of the most awesome, bright, brilliant, beautiful light. what is the amazing part about it is people always say who've had this experience that they're always surrounded by love. The key is that's them feeling themselves again. It's not some external force, it's you feeling you. That love and great comfort and great peace. And why? Because all of a sudden, for me, Art, I begin to look at the system. Not so much that I was afraid of anything that was going on because it was safe, but the system of how you come into the light, that you're met by someone that you feel safe with. And a lot of people say they're met by relatives, and you hear this continuously in the process.
Dannion, let me ask you a question. When you began the process of being outside your body and observing your body and then the tunnel and all the rest of it, were you able during that time to sort of consciously think yourself, well, gee, look at me, I guess I'm dying, they're trying to bring me back, but I'm dying, and I wonder where I'm going, and isn't it strange that I'm up here? And in other words, have a kind of a conversation with yourself, that kind of consciousness?
Absolutely.
Yes?
Yes. You're watching it. You're never thinking that you're dead.
Were you scared?
Absolutely not. I mean, once it happened, once I lifted out of my body, there was no fear whatsoever. All of a sudden, it's like returning to the state of consciousness that you began. The whole nature of the near-death experience is going home.
Did you want to come back?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
I wouldn't. When I went through this, Art, I went through what I think is the single most important aspects of the near-death experience. And I write about it in both Saved by the Light and At Peace in the Light, and more in At Peace in the Light. The panoramic life review, a lot of times people ask me, they say, Dannion, what gives you such a confidence that there's a life after death and da-da-da, things like that? And I said, I can tell you the answer to that. When they said I was dead, that's the furthest thing I was. I was alive. And I tranced and moved through whole systems and levels of consciousness. But where is my stability? You will have what's called the panoramic life review. There was a lot of things I saw on the other side that I had never seen before. I had no ability to comprehend it, how it worked and what it was. But this part, you will begin to feel after you've been greeted on the other side and you acclimate yourself to it. You will begin to feel all the childlike emotions that you've had. Then you will form opinions of them, and then all of a sudden you will have a panoramic life review.
Was it a solid world, this place where you went? Did you see things and people? Did they appear to you as they do here, translucently? How was it the same? Can you describe where you were?
We are light beings. The place that I was, I had a form, but it's like something crushed crystal, like thousands of crystals reflecting and refracting, just like prisms. And your energy and I saw other beings. But how you communicate and how all that goes on is in waves of light. You are more real over there than you are over here.
Really?
More real.
This is the illusion.
There was no question about it in the context of which we're discussing this. Let me get the panoramic life in, Art.
Yes, please.
The panoramic life review is the single most point that all of us can change our lives by. You know, you can hear enough near-death experiences till you want to throw up, or you can listen to it. What good is it to know about it, but how can you apply it to your life? The confidence that I have of what I saw on the other side, if I had never had the visions, which, you know, in Saved by the Light I wrote, and my history is 20 years of when I met Dr. Moody and I met the early researchers. I told them everything that had happened, and I went to Crystal Cities, the events that I saw that I never knew were the future. You know, and the most recent one is the second nuclear accident, which has occurred in Norway, and these things are so documented for 20 years that they keep unfolding. That had a certain amount of impact on the credibility of Dannion Brinkley and his near-death experience. But what I think had the most was, I saw my life pass before me. I not only witnessed every single event that from if you think that you missed the leaves rustling outside of your window when you lay in a crib at 2 years old, you're foolish. We record everything. I literally saw every event and everything that happened in my life. And even more important than that, I literally became every person that I had encountered and felt the direct results of my interaction between me and that person.
Oh, my God.
And I got to feel, because my first 25 years, the biggest jackass, the most belligerent, obnoxious person that you would ever want to meet, you know. And
I'm recalling our earlier interview, Dannion, and check me if I'm wrong, and I'm going to be really wrong here, but I recall you telling me that in your early life, you've killed.
Yeah.
Now, having, you know, I wrote a book, Dannion, and that was painful enough. That was like revisiting my whole life. It was very painful. But
right.
At the level of revisiting your early life that you're talking about, it must have been a terror.
Well, it had its moments. But you know what, Art? When you look at your life, because I was in the Southeast Asian business, I worked for various government agencies. You know, we lived in the world of proxy wars, and we fought clandestine warfare, which is what we do now. And I was just a small little fragment of that, but I operated in S&D, search and destroy teams, or extraction teams, or I did logistical support for those things, and I started at 19 years old. And I worked in operations under contract, just like there's a lot of Dannion Brinkleys out in the world. Most of them are crazier than I am, but there's still a lot of them out there. I lived in a world where I thought I was protecting mom and apple pie and things like that. I now know that I was the part of the biggest deception that we've ever perpetrated on the American people. But when you go back and look at it, when you have a panoramic life review, you will become the person. So I got to feel the anguish, frustration, humiliation, pain, and everything that I brought on everybody. But the key is this, Art.
Dannion, have you ever heard from your old bosses? I'm sure they've heard what you've had to say.
Yeah, well, you know, I never push it to the point where I expose something that, you know, I change things just slightly. Because
Would cause them discomfort.
Yeah, absolutely, because first you take oaths of silence, and second, the government works in very strange and mysterious ways when they want you not to talk. My problem is this: I'm never betraying anything. You know, I don't want to live in that world. The war I fight now is for the quality of the final days of those people who are leaving this world. The war I fight now is that no one dies alone in this country, and I've recruited thousands and thousands of hospice volunteers, and I do lectures and seminars on that, and I believe that the war that I'm fighting now, that no one dies alone in this country, and the quality of life, so we have families that are able to commit closure, because we're caught up in a situation where everybody's so afraid of death because of institutions, governments, and religions just lying, that you become so frightened that you will do anything in the world to keep that loved one alive one more day, whereas that you're doing such an injustice. And as all these years have passed and all the people who've done research on the near-death experience, they never seem to really commit to where it really matters in the quality of life in the final days.
Quick answer. Near-death experience. You were there twice. Does a person or a soul or an entity or a light have a choice about coming back? Can you say, I want to go back, or forget that, leave the body, I'm out of here?
A lot of people say they're given a choice. But a lot of times I don't like those people. Because if I was given a choice, Art, you would have never got me to come back. And if those beings of light would have given me any inkling that I was going to ever return, I would have been figuring out a way from the get-go to keep from having to come back.
Why do you think you did, Dannion?
Well, I think it was because people ask me all the time, Dannion, why do you think you were chosen to bring about this information and to build the centers, the things that I work on, and to deal with the healthcare issues, which is what they told me.
You see so much death, Dannion. You said 100 and how many?
51.
151 people you've taken there.
Yeah, I live there every day. It's my life.
Isn't it hard? I
No.
mean, isn't there a human side of it that's hard, even though you know what's on the other side and you're helping them?
The hard part is for the family members who have to go on afterwards. Bereavement. It's hard for the people who wish they just would have had the 5 more minutes. What people forget that it's heaven or the spiritual world that's gaining that person. That we may be losing them, but the spiritual world is gaining that person. And in that simple moment, Art, and the key to where 80 million Americans are now as baby boomers, losing moms and dads, aunts and uncles, and brothers and sisters, cancer, AIDS, these kinds of things.
Sure.
We must become aware. We must be able to handle it, like at Peace in the Light, I dedicated the book to baby boomers, So as we face our own mortality, we must help those who we love and who have loved us face theirs. These are wondrous, mystical moments when a person can sit with someone and they can be there. And as they're there, they begin to discover the magical wonderment of that they are spiritual beings, that yes, the body does, biological shutdown and neurological shutdown does occur, but the twinkle in that person's eye and the wonderment of the conversations in those final days both grow, and you create closure art. We have a responsibility, every one of us that has the ability to speak and has a forum, and I'm lucky that I have sold millions and millions of books all over the world, and I lecture all the time about the quality of the final days. We have this responsibility because we're in that age group.
All right, Dannion, I've got several questions. Hold it right there. Relax. We'll be back to you. We're at the top of the hour. Dannion Brinkley is my guest at Peace and the Light, his latest book. And, boy, do I have a lot of questions. I bet you do, too. Stay right there. This is Dreamland.
From the Kingdom of Nye, we continue with your calls on Dreamland with Art Bell. Call Art now, toll-free at 1-800-618-8255. 1-800-618-TALK. First-time callers, area code 702-727-1222. 702-727-1222. Or the wildcard line at area code 702-727-1295. 727-1295 in the 702 area code. Now again, here's Art Bell.
Those are the numbers. Don't call yet. Hang in there. We'll get to the lines. That thing is always a semi-lie when it says we continue with your calls. We'll get to calls. I'm Art Bell. This is Dreamland. Dannion Brinkley, back again. Dannion?
Yes.
I've got something I want to run by you. In America right now, there is a great controversy about how we can end our lives and whether we can end them a bit prematurely with the aid of a doctor. And I want to run this by you, Dannion. My wife said something to me once, and I guess every couple talks about death every now and then, the nature of, and all the rest of it. And I've always sort of maintained that whose life is it anyway, and if I were in a great deal of pain and I had a terminal disease, that I might choose an early out, that I might choose a way out at the last minute to avoid all that pain at the end. And my wife said something to me that I've never forgotten. She said, "Oh, no, you can't do that. You have to go through what you were meant to go through, and if you don't, there are sort of cosmic repercussions. In other words, you've got to suffer and go through that pain. You were meant to go through it." What is your view about this?
Well, I have to agree with her.
Really?
I am not an advocate of euthanasia. I mean, I will not, excuse me, I believe that everyone has their own right. Once you leave this world, Art, and you realize that you are not a poor, pitiful little human trying to have a mystical experience, you're a great and powerful spiritual being trying to have a human experience. We choose to come here and are chosen to come here. And we are to endure a certain period of time, and we are here to handle a job. It's like when a soldier retires and takes his uniform off, that's the same as death to me. He may be dead as a soldier, but he returns to his spiritual life. Now imagine, a person comes here. All this pain that they're going through, people say, well, they always were great people. They never did anything to anybody, but they ate a pound of bacon every morning for breakfast. So where a person finds herself biologically and neurologically has a lot to do with the quality of care of this body which they have occupied during this earth life experience. Now, who's responsible for that? What I believe, without any question, and like I keep repeating, but I'm not really trying to say buy Dannion Brinkley books, but I am. What I keep repeating in that Peace in the Light is how you should look at the body, how you should look at your perspective on it, and then to make the decision. When you realize that how powerful a spiritual being you are, what a hero it was that you even chose to come here, and only the champions come. Every one of us is a hero. When you come, then that decision truly belongs to you, because I'm not going to tell anybody what to do, because I'm just not. But I will stay as long as I'm supposed to. I don't believe in artificial ways of keeping people alive. I believe the natural process will take its course, and that's what we should do. But I'm not going to say you can't.
And yet, though, your own experience, artificially in effect, kept alive, or brought back anyway.
Brought back.
Surely without that intervention, you would not have come back, right?
Yeah, don't you hate it?
Well, I don't, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, that may be part of the great thread of time and happenings that you've got to live out.
Well, I mean, I'm here doing that, and I realize it as commonly as my own breath that I breathe. It is the value of breath that is the most important. People have to understand that how you breathe. What is the value of breath, and why are you to hold on to that last breath? And religions, governments, and institutions have us go into thinking that we're holding on to this last breath so we don't all go to hell. You know, I come from the deep South, and everybody's going to hell where I come from because of fundamentalism and that kind of thought pattern. But what you have to realize is 50% of the breath you breathe is for you. The other 50% is for spirit. When you breathe air into your nostrils, you breathe it in, it fills your lungs, but it also fills your sinus cavities. As it does that, it activates the brain. The brain activates and attaches itself to the mind. The mind activates to the universal consciousness, and then spirit sprinkles little, you know, when you go to get yogurt, you get those little candy things, those little different flavored things on the top of it.
Yes.
And that spirit adds its magic, and then you breathe back into the world. So the way that spirit enters this world is through the breathing process, and each breath, they estimate you breathe about 500 million breaths in a lifetime. Why suicide became such a condemnational psychology was because every breath, and literally the universe, has to readjust itself when a person takes that breath away from themselves before that chosen time.
So the answer is don't do it.
Well, the answer is that I wholeheartedly disagree with people doing it, but I am not the person to tell anyone that they should. Now, I'll give you a study by Dr. Bruce Grayson, who was at the University of Storr in Connecticut, and he was the psychiatrist on the duty during the night, and people who would come in would attempt suicide. People who had attempted suicide, this is like 460 people, who had attempted suicide. Of those who had no near-death experience or any form of it, went on to attempt it 3 more times or until they succeeded. Those people who had some form of the near-death experience, not a single one of them ever did. Once you touch the other side, or it touches you, you find that you are a hero, that this is your job, that you've come and chosen to live in this particular time, in this particular event, and you are to do the best you can to maintain this system that you have called the body and to get your job done.
All right, Dannion, question. Of those that clinically die and come back, what percentage, roughly, do you think has a near-death experience?
Well, they estimate that some 13 million Americans have had some form. I would say that it was really roughly maybe 8 to 10 million, and I think 40% of the people who are resuscitated have some form of the near-death experience.
40%. Any idea why? In other words, why is there a difference? Why is it not universal? That's a good question. Why do some go and not experience that? Just blackness or no remembrance of any sort, or how come?
Well, remember, we are quite uniquely, individually spiritual beings. And there are many mitigating circumstances. Like me, I was struck by lightning the first time. So there wasn't a chance that I was going to have too much anesthesia, that I was going to have a reaction to it, or that I was in a situation to where it could be controlled by how much morphine I was under, or what age, or how the neurochemical reactions in the brain were. And then maybe a lot of times our people block it out, because if they knew, if they chose to remember the experience, then it would keep them from finishing the job or the mission that they come to this earth to do. I mean, I think that we're all everyone tries to find a blanket answers because that's the nature of the scientific approach. When you enter spirituality and you look at it from that point, then you see that there are so many different deviations because of how each of us are unique.
All right, let's try this question. I would think a very interesting study, Dannion, would be people who, while they were here, were very spiritual people, versus those who were not, and then compare the percentages of those two groups that reported near-death experiences Wouldn't that be interesting?
Oh, there's been like 9 of those studies done in 10 countries.
Oh.
The near-death experience, it has a universal, anomalies. Things that are continuously, regardless if you were a Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, if you were atheist, communist, or, I've been in 10 countries and talked to 1,000 people because I had to figure the thing out, Art. I had to know what it was.
Well, okay, is there a correlation between earthly spirituality and experiencing and recalling a near-death experience?
We all leave the world the same way. There's no...
there is or is not a connection?
There's not a connection except that you have a greater insight a lot of times. People who follow the spiritual path have in their lives crossed information that comes about in the near-death experience. I never did. I'd never heard anything like this, and I made fun of it. And, I was a really cynical jerk, so when it happened to me, I had no resources to draw from. I had no conscious way. The second time it happened to me during open heart surgery, I had like 2 days to get ready for it. And so I looked at every possible aspect. Maybe I would have one, maybe I wouldn't. Who knows what those were.
Did you want one?
Well, I didn't want to make it through it. See, what I kept hoping, I refused to have the surgery. I lay there 3 or 4 days dying until it got down to the last hour, and they found Raymond Moody, and he came to see me. And Raymond and I have been friends a really, really long time. And I can remember looking up into Raymond's face as he watched me laugh and blood run out of my nose and my mouth because of the damage to my heart, and the aortic valve was so damaged. And I can remember a face that he made that I never did understand until I asked him later. And he says, listen, Dannion, we've been friends for 15 years. And I've heard people talk about the near-death experience over and over and over again, and that all of them say they're not afraid of dying. He said, being so close to you and knowing you and watching you laughing and refusing to sign the papers, and that you were dying because I'm a doctor and I'm talking to your doctors. He said, I saw a place of a person who was no longer afraid. So I refused. It was Raymond who came. I was leaving this world. I talked to my parents, my dad, my brother, my sister, the people that I really loved. I told them I told my father how I wanted everything to be divided up, and that there was nothing on this earth that was going to keep me here. I am out of this place. I'm out of here.
So you wanted to go?
Absolutely. People don't understand. This is a job. We come and we do it. Our responsibility now is to help change the world. Remember that in Saved by the Light, which I detailed the prophecies, the future, just where the banking, the 2 commercials that you just did, it's a wonderment about you, Art Bell. You have some of the best commercials because do you realize that the United States government has a bill before Congress that literally, it's called the Kessenbaum-Kennedy bill.
Yeah.
It has a clause in it that states that it would make it a criminal act for a physician or his patient to practice alternative medicines of anything not approved by the medical establishment.
I've heard that.
And they're voting on it, and everyone should write their congressman.
I believe it's 7 years possibly in prison. Isn't that the penalty?
That's exactly what it is.
Right.
And we have to alert people to that because I believe, Art, that without us establishing our freedom in our own medical treatments and what we go after, we were losing a battle that is one of the serious, most important battles for the quality of human dignity that will ever come about. And do you know also that one of my predictions that came about that I had was where America would be?
Yes, that is what I want to ask you about.
Watch this 2002 thing that they were saying in your commercial.
Yes, but I would like to ask you specifically what you saw. What you saw in terms of prophecy, what could be, not necessarily what will be.
Oh, absolutely not necessarily what will be, but because at the end of going through, I went through the near-death experience panoramic life review. I went to a place I call crystal cities or cities of knowledge. I was met by 13 beings of light. Each of these beings sent messages at me, and I would all of a sudden be living in it. And a lot of people who know me, I predicted Chernobyl. In 1975 and 76, I wrote down this 117 things, all from Chernobyl to Desert Storm.
All right, well, let's deal with Chernobyl. Just as how did you see that? In what manner?
I saw an explosion. and then I saw people dying. And I knew it was a nuclear facility because I'd seen the 3 Mile Island deal with the stacks, the cooling towers.
Right.
And I saw radiation, and I was seeing mutations, and I was seeing children dying, and I was seeing abandoned places in this big explosion. And I knew it was called wormwood. Now, I didn't know that back then, because I didn't speak Russian or Ukrainian, that wormwood, which is a bittersweet herb that's used for digestion in tonics or natural remedies, that the Ukrainian word for wormwood is Chernobyl. And I just wrote all this down. I said the Soviet Union would collapse in 1989 as part of it. I said that America would go to war in the early parts of 1990, and it would be in the Middle East, and it would be called Storm something. I mean, and I said that by 1995, America would be in a place in economic collapse because of literally a conspiracy.
Dannion, how did you, this manner of recording, you wrote these things down, and how do we know, in other words, did somebody else see them? Did you put them in print? Did you publish them? All of this done?
Oh, no, this went on in the early days, Art. I met with Dr. Raymond Moody. These were conversations that he recorded on tape.
Oh, good. Good.
Yes,
that's
I mean,
important.
there are cassette tapes that exist of this conversation from 1975.
Okay, good.
And not only that, in the early days, Art, when these psychiatrists and doctors, I've been around since the first day, since Raymond's first book. I've been around Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, Raymond Moody, Bruce Grayson, Michael Sabon, Ken Ring, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, Melvin Morris, all the most noted researchers in the world, George Ritchie, who I think is one of the people who've really made it possible for people to, he was a psychiatrist and a doctor who taught at the University of Virginia, who first got Raymond interested in near-death experiences, who's written 2 really good books about it. And having conversations with these people, plus when things would start happening, because Raymond Moody and I have been such good friends for so long, he would tell them. I didn't tell people.
All right, with such a good track record, Dannion, the obvious question to ask is about the as-yet unfulfilled prophecies. In other words, what's yet to come?
We lived to 2000 in the event. I went to the year 2004, but remember what it's predicated on, Art, that between the year 2004 and 2014, and somewhere between 2011 and 2012, the nature of how we exist and experience ourselves as physical beings will become highly spiritually evolved. There is almost like, they say the dawn of the Aquarian Age, the end of the Mayan calendar, the Hopis.
Yes.
Okay, all that stuff points toward an event. Right now, our consciousness is accelerating. We are becoming far more intuitive, and our perspectives are changing right now.
Yes.
And so if this is speeding up and this is happening, why? Because there is an energy form that is coming toward the Earth again that hasn't been around in a while. So between now and 2004, it's really the shakeout period. We will either take hold and recapture our lives and recapture our own selves and recapture our own health care and recapture this government and prepare to try to negotiate the end of wars so that this golden age comes, or we will be at war. One of the key factors that people talk, they see the things that have come true, and just recently, I said in 1986 there'd be a nuclear explosion, and then in 1995 there would be another nuclear accident. All this is written down, and there's 1,000 people that knew. Art, I've been here 20 years. I didn't just walk up and make this stuff up. I have a 20-year history in newspaper articles and events and the early researchers. And when I didn't start out to be a prophet, I believed that I saw these events so that I would have nowhere to run, that I would have to stay, I would have to work on the centers, and at a certain point in time, I would have to be positioned and position myself to protect the rights of those people leaving this world.
All right, Dannion, hold it right there.
You're not going to run me off, are you?
No, we'll be right back. This is Dreamland.
From the Kingdom of Nye, you're hearing Dreamland with Art Bell. To participate in the program, call toll-free 1-800-618-8255, 1-800-618-8255. First-time callers, area code 702-727-1222, or the wildcard line at 702-727-1295. This is the ZBC Radio Network.
Good evening from the high desert. My guest, Dannion Brinkley. He'll be right back.
This is the end of side 1. Please leave the cassette.
Right, back now to Dannion Brinkley. And Dannion, I think we talked about this last time, but I've been doing this talk show now for about a dozen years. Just this one. It's become larger and larger nationally. But Dannion, I have felt what I call, for lack of any better word, a quickening. And I think that goes right along with what you were saying. I've noticed that events in every arena, economic, social, geophysical, every arena, things are quickening, happening faster, becoming rapidly, I don't know if more dangerous is the right word. They're moving, in other words, it's moving towards something.
It's expanding itself, and we're like getting microcosms. It's expanding.
Yes.
And I listen to the advertisers, the people that you have as your advertisers. It's so easy and obvious that you are aware of the transition and you're trying to get the word out. Much of the predictions will be between 94 and 96. In 1975 and 76, I said 94 and 96 would be the most critical years.
Mm-hmm.
And, I didn't really understand art so long ago what all this was. I'm a guy from South Carolina. And I never voted myself into this. I never, this was not my life. And then all of a sudden I'm there. But we're going to speed up, and it's going to get even more rapid. Look at the world situation. Look at what's happening. I've been out of touch for like 15 days. I come back and I look at the information about where the Middle East is and what would be happening, and Arafat and Jordan and the Palestinians, and all those are in my book. All these things I've talked about, and I said that this is what I saw. I think it's really important to realize that we are able to control it. I'd like to say this. I don't know, I have copies of my book. I bought a bunch of copies of my book, the hardbacks, and I wanted to be able to offer them to people who didn't have the predictions and who wanted to really look at it and see it. So if they call me or write me, then I'd send them an autographed copy and I'd give it at the best price that I could.
Wow.
So could I give my address?
Oh, yes. Can they respond only by address, or is there a phone number?
It keeps it's in a place where I can handle it myself. I'm just that one guy, Art. You know me well. I try to get that word out the best I know how and the best way I see it. So as these things are speeding up, as I see the dissolving of Jordan, as I see the next major crisis that we're about to enter war if we're not really careful in Bosnia, the religious factions are warring over the Balkans. The churches, the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church, are arguing over who has control over the churches in the Balkans.
Mm-hmm.
We've entered a place, one of the major predictions that I said years and years and years ago was that there would come a time when Jerusalem would become, although like a papacy, it would be like the Vatican, and it would be ruled by an Islamic, a Christian, and Jewish groups. And the Palestinian-Israeli Accord was negotiated in Rome. The Eastern Orthodox Church owns most of the landmass in Jerusalem. And now this final issue of the Palestinian Accord is how to settle East Jerusalem and Jerusalem as a factor, and that's what Hamas is fighting about. Here was one of the really funny ones I said 20 years ago, that the Arab and the Israeli people, the Israelis and the Palestinians would join forces almost like a police unit to regulate and control the radical and terrorist action committees between the two groups.
And so it is happening.
Everybody said, I even described what kind of uniforms they would wear.
What?
I wrote this down 20 years ago, that this is kind of uniforms, and in 94 to 96, everything is being determined. The election of a new president in Russia. And I said that America and Russia would be friends for a short period of time, and then it would begin.
All right. Do you know, Dannion, that the candidate leading a big lead right now in Russia is a communist?
No, see, and it's going to shift back. I honestly believe that everything that we've been hearing about the Russians was only to gain Western technology and to delude the United States. Everything that I saw in the future predictions, I think that they're far stronger, far more powerful than we've ever let know. And when you look at the information from those last years of Gorbachev, that 2,000 tons of gold was shipped to America, and now Gorbachev has $100 million think tank, and that I talk about Gorbachev in the predictions and who I think he is and how I think he's evolved. And now he just recently found an environmental group called Green Cross.
I know.
That supersedes all kinds of laws. And when I look at all that stuff and I see it come into pass exactly like the vision was shown to me, then I see that we are not doing enough to change it.
Yep, that's where I was going. Without change, major change, it's not going to be very long, is it?
Oh, it's on top of us.
Yeah.
If we don't grab a hold to our economy, when we were laughing, the year 2002, what was the year 2002 mean in balancing the budget? Based at the growth rate of our deficit, without taking into consideration of inflation.
I know.
In the year 2002, every penny collected by the Internal Revenue Service in taxes, every penny
goes to service the debt.
It won't even service the debt.
Yeah, I know. Crunch points before that.
Yeah, it won't even service the debt.
Yeah.
The other thing is oil prices. This is all in the predictions of Saved by the Light and reviewed in that piece in the Light. All the gasoline is at its highest. It's at its highest price in 5 years. But not only that, with the trouble that's in the Middle East, and the fact, and I wrote all the stuff down 20 years ago is what's so really funny, and it still amazes me, Art. You understand?
Yes, of course.
I didn't turn out to be Nostradamus or Edgar Cayce. I keep seeing the stuff come true, and I do everything in my power by you allow me to be on this show and to talk about it, to get people to wake up. Hey, guys, I'm not some guy from India. I'm from South Carolina. This has happened to me, and if I wasn't out here helping my brothers and sisters and the people in the age group, because this is our world, it's not the world of our mothers and our fathers, and we are responsible for the quality of care of our mothers and fathers, we must be active, we must be aware, and we must act now, because if we don't, the repercussions of it will be some of the most horrendous times in history or a golden age. And I really appreciate the fact that Art Bell exists.
If it goes the wrong way, Dannion, what are we facing? Geophysical changes, earthquakes? People want to know. I've got a guy here in San Francisco. What's coming? He wants to know.
Geophysically, and that's going to happen anyway. And I don't try to get people to understand that I'm not like every other earthquake prophesier.
Well, that's the question. In other words, did you see...
Oh, yeah.
Let's forget earthquakes. Did you see earth changes?
Oh, tremendous earth changes. And when I hear people tell me that they're being punished and why is God doing this to us and the earth changes, do you realize that this is one little small planet in a solar system? And in that solar system, the Hubble telescope has just discovered another universe right next to this one, and then a universe slightly to the north of this one. Each one of them contains roughly 4 billion planets and 150,000 stars. What the Earth is doing is it is in its growth cycle, like we in our physical spiritual cycles. What it's doing is it's working in conjunction with 8 billion other planets to keep alignment, to keep evolving the way the universe is set forth for us to spiritually do, to evolve.
The American native has had a long-held belief that Earth is almost a living entity.
Oh, it is. Now, that's planetology. You know, the next thing, a bunch of fundamentalists will call you up and threaten you, but please give them my address when they do call you.
Oh, we better get back to that. Dannion, if they want an autograph, that's a real... I autograph books. I know how tough it is. That's quite an offer.
I have a chance to take the hardback and offer it if you send me $13.50, I'll pay the postage and I'll sign whoever you want me to sign to it and have a hardback copy, which they don't exist anymore. I got all the rest of them there were, and it was my way of trying to cut the price and give people a personal way to have the book, and in a simple way, just as one guy. And it name's Dannion Brinkley, and it's Post Office Box 1919, Aiken, A-I-K-E-N, South Carolina.
Spell it again, please.
Aiken, A-I-K-E-N.
Okay.
South Carolina.
Right.
29802. And if you just send me a check or, like a cashier's check, and tell me what you want me to say in it, and I will write it, and it's a hardback copy, and it's cheaper than you can buy it at the store, and it's personally signed by me. And what I'm trying to accomplish is that people have a reference place to build a reference library for the period and the times that come. And it was, I spent my money. I said, look, I want these books so that I can offer them to people from me and send my heart, my love along with the thing, and they can keep up with it as it unfolds.
Boy, are you going to be busy. Dannion Brinkley, Post Office Box 1919, Aiken, A-I-K-E-N, South Carolina, zip code 29802, right?
$13.50, and Greg will cost $20. And I'll sign it, send it back to you for as long as, you know, that as I have them. And I'm trying to figure out a way to do the same thing with that piece, but I'm having to negotiate that. And I'm trying on my own to give to everybody in our own way a place to draw their reference from. Like at Peace in the Light, it's, you know, it's out there still. And what I want people to do is this is how to deal with the issues of mom and dad and loss, and how in 150 experiences to create closure. I think, Art, one of the most horrendous things that happen is we have not set up a methodology by which people can develop closure by using a near-death experience as a way to look at life. All the things that's happened to me in these near-death experiences, both of them, has only brought me closer to understanding that we are powerful spiritual beings. We're heroes. We're not subject as little waves cast upon the land. We have a certain job and a mission because there is a great event about to take place. It will either be the most perfect, wonderful change, or it will be the biggest mess we've ever been in, but it will be self-wrought. And mine is to say, hey guys, I'm not from India. I didn't, you know, I may talk like Deepak Chopra because I always laugh at Deepak and tell him he talks funny, but when he listens to this Southern American accent, he says I really don't have any place to talk to him. But
Dannion, as you look down the thread of what might happen, either a wonderful event or a horrible event, is there something, should the horrible event occur, is there something on the other side of that, do you know?
Oh, yeah.
In other words,
it doesn't really matter what we do. By 2012, that event will be here.
Do we rise like a phoenix?
Oh yes, yeah. We're the champions. We're the great. We are the great champions, and we will succeed. From 1975 to 1989, or when I turned 40 years old, I had lost faith. I couldn't believe that as the predictions started coming true, and I didn't know it was the future, Art. I just saw it started happening, and it kept happening, and I kept working on the centers, and I started doing hospice work, which I honestly and sincerely believe that the greatest endeavor that any of us can do is to do hospice work.
What do you tell people when you go to a person who's dying, who's scared, who's holding on to their last breath, fighting for life? What do you tell these people? They know they're dying. What do you tell them?
You'd be amazed at how many people really want to talk about it. People who are leaving this world know that they are. The National Hospice Association teaches techniques. Then there's a group that's called the Project Nightlights, which is out of California, that really helps people deal with those issues. I sit with the person, and mostly I listen, and I want to hear their life story. So they begin to have the panoramic life review. And as they begin to have on this side what's going to happen on the other side, and to help them bring a certain level of peace into that. If a person wants to talk to me, everyone's individual. But I teach a 5-hour workshop that teaches nothing but the technique to enable people to be there in those moments. I think that it's so important that we learn that by being with people as they leave this world, we grow spiritual. It is the greatest opportunity for spiritual growth that there is, and I try to eliminate the fear of it, and to be able to have closure in family relationships. That's what that piece is about, to have closure in these relationships, and to grow intuitively and spiritual within the context of the events that's unfolding in this world, because we are here because we chose to be here. We are the champions, and we will not fail. We will succeed, but we must take a hold on it. Here's one of the two important things that will occur. We're about to have a massive paradigm shift. Our whole structure, our whole basis of our cultural civilization, what happens if they really do discover there's UFOs? What happens to religion? What happens if as these things that keep on unfolding and events that other people like me have had. I'm not the only one. I just happen, Art, to have known every single person, and I met Raymond because he went to the Medical College of Georgia. I met Dr. Ritchie and all the people who were researching it, and I've had the pleasure of being around them. But what happens, like, there's one other thing I'd like to bring up. And
Dannion, let me stop you there. You tell me, what happens if we discover that there is life from elsewhere? Suppose we discovered that that life actually seeded our life, that it challenges the present religious paradigm altogether.
Well, it's going to do it.
Yeah, all right. So what happens, Dannion?
Won't it be fun? Won't it be fun? Can't you wait till you turn on the Reverend Ainsley?
There was, Dannion, there was something called the Brookings Report. You know about that?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Well, the Brookings Report suggested that it would be horrible, that if
religion would collapse,
yes,
governments would collapse.
That's right.
Institutions would collapse.
That's right.
Well, I think that's a thrilling idea, Art. I'm sick and tired of the lying dogs myself. I can't wait. I'm so excited because what happens if the government collapses, Art? You know what you'll do? You'll go next door. Well, maybe not you, Art, because you hide out in the desert.
Yes, I do.
But you would go next door to see what your friend's doing and what your neighbor's doing, and then you would create a true economy instead of a piece of green paper with a dead man's picture on it. And we'd help each other again, and we would begin to build a true way. I mean, when you hear economic collapse, okay, so what? Big deal. We are collapsed. We are at bankruptcy.
Yeah.
It's just a big lie. I mean, and that's what it is.
I just don't think the neighbor helping neighbor part would come until after the neighbor killing neighbor part.
Well, I believe that if the government is doing what it's doing, with Medicaid and Medicare, HMOs controlled, cutting off welfare, all that kind of stuff, they're going to create roving bands of people and outcasts.
Yes.
And they've planned this. I'm not saying that the government's evil, but I see FEMA, I see let me slow down, Art, because I'm having too much fun. Well, come on,
for one thing, I would like to note that your last interview, and it was a great one, was very different than this one. And there's something about where you've been, maybe your trip to Lima. I know you're just back by hours, but something happened to you down there. I mean, here you are off an airplane by just a few hours from Peru.
And just been 15,000 feet in the Andes Mountains for 15 days.
Yeah, it's like you're still at 15,000 feet, Dannion.
Oh, you think I can calm down?
No. I'm just noting it. And maybe I ought to just ask you, you must have been spiritually renewed, or...
That's exactly what happens, Art.
Yeah.
I go there, and I take a group of people, and it's the moments where I get outside the United States. I travel with Visions Travel, Abbas and Mustafa Nadeem, and they're the best tour there is, because how they handle it, and they allow me to take 25 or 30 people, and, well, this was 40 people, and I sit with those people, and we take in the most mystical place in the Americas. We do volunteer work in nursing homes and orphanages as a part of the tour, and we sit and we go through a program that I've developed based on near-death experiences. I take people through a near-death experience in the high Andes Mountains with all of that, and it really affects me.
One quick question. Have you been to a place called Cusco, Peru?
Absolutely.
Is it a very spiritual place?
It's the center of the universe. You can't even imagine. You can't walk on that ground and not know it. I recommend that everyone goes there. I mean, there's places in this world that where I see, by following the predictions.
Dannion, hold tight right there. I'm going to go ahead and run this as bumper. This is a group called Cusco, and this was inspired by a trip to Cusco, Peru. You're listening to Dreamland. I'm Art Bell. We'll be right back.
From the Kingdom of Nye, we continue with your calls on Dreamland with Art Bell. Call Art now toll-free at 1-800-618-8255. 1-800-618-TALK. First-time callers, area code 702-727-1222. 702-727-1222. Or the wildcard line at area code 702-727-1295. 727-1295 in the 702 area code. Now again, Here's Art Bell.
Here again I am from the high desert to the world via the internet and this whole great country way beyond. It's good to be here. I guess I'm going to repeat something I said earlier, and it really falls right in with what Dannion has been saying regarding change on the way. Oh, there's change on the way, all right. All right, back now to my guest, Dannion Brinkley, and during the news, I left some of Cusco on. I just sort of let it go through the news. You didn't hear it, but Dannion did hear it.
It was terrific.
And let me tell you a little story, just real quickly, and maybe you can react to it. About 2 or 3 years ago now, Dannion, I heard this music, which is written by a fellow named Michael Holm, who lives in Bavaria, and it was inspired by a trip to Cusco, Peru, hence the name of the group, Cusco. And I was so drawn to it, and then I met in person. Michael Holm came to my home from Bavaria, came here, and I told him that I was very drawn to it, and very drawn to the idea of going to visit Cusco, Peru. Mind you, not E.T. style. I wasn't mashing potatoes and making them into little things, but I've been kind of drawn and been wanting to go to Cusco, Peru. Would it be a good experience?
For anybody that can get the little cash together to go. It changes your whole perspective. And I'm listening. See, Art, I wanted to ask you, do you think that the nature of the two different people that you knew, one, that rowdy, evangelist, and then this side of me that's this way?
Yeah.
I don't know which of those two people you like the most, but anyone who takes the time to take a pilgrimage, who plans it, who follows it exactly to a routine, will uncover and discover spiritual sites of parts of themselves. Machu Picchu does it, and the trips to the Ucay Valley, and I have a route that I go through, changes a person. I just left 40 people at the airport, and the things that they say, because I design it around death and rebirth, and I talk about issues, and I have a whole program. Anybody. And I mean, it's, I recommend it so deeply, because you take yourself out of this world, and you put yourself high in the mountains in the Andes, 15,000 feet, culture, and you hear stories, and you meet people, and you understand that all the stuff that we've been hearing all our lives, most of it's a lie to start with. There's one thing and I recommend it, and if ever I'm going, you can come and go with me. I mean, you're welcome.
I would love to. I would love to. I really would love to.
I mean, you're welcome, and I'll see to it, and I'll talk to a bass, and I try to go 2 or 3 times a year, because it gives me the calm, tranquil inner peace that I need to get out and fight for the rights of people who are leaving this world, to defend the rights, and to give insight to people in my age group who are losing people, and to show them the true joy in the mystical side of this whole life and this adventure. Now think of this, Art. I was doing a television show for UPN called Paranormal Borderline.
Oh, Gordon Michael did it as well.
Yeah, great show. They're doing a good job. And I was listening. I think my show is May the 7th.
May 7th.
May 7th at 9 p.m. on UPN Paranormal Borderline. But what's so significant about it is my segment's just Dannion Brinkley, it has to do with me being able to go from this side of the world to the other side and come back and talk to people on the other side, and that I can do that naturally. I live in both worlds, and I try to teach ways, like in that Peace in the Light, I teach ways that you yourself can do that, and that you can do it faster by being a hospice volunteer than any other way.
All right.
Guess who the first segment is?
Who?
Neil Armstrong.
No kidding.
Neil Armstrong, the Mercury, he was with Mercury 7, 20 years an astronaut, one of the straight, most conservative people, guy from the right stuff. That whole shtick. You know what he's going to say? He's going to say that the government's liars.
What?
That he has...
Are you sure? Wait,
Oh,
stop.
listen to me, pal.
Oh, yeah, are you sure about this?
Listen to me.
All right, no, I'm going to stop you, because I'm going to tell you something else first. Because you were out of the country. You don't know this happened. This last Friday evening on NBC's Dateline, guess who was on?
Who?
Edgar Mitchell, Apollo 14 astronaut. Guess what he said?
They're liars.
He said Roswell was covered up. They lied. They've lied to us about Roswell. He said, we've been visited here on Earth. They're covering that up too. They lied. That was Edgar Mitchell. It was a total blowaway this last Friday night when you were out of the country.
Well, that's even better because look at who
So
Neil Armstrong.
you're telling me Neil Armstrong's going to come on Paranormal Borderline May 7th, same show you're on.
May 7th at 9 o'clock, and he's going to say, listen, I saw them. I not only know that there were unidentified flying objects from somewhere outside, I know it. I saw them. The government took pictures of them. Edgar Mitchell wasn't at Roswell.
I understand. You're going to say, are you sure of this? I mean, you were there when he said this?
Yes. You watch it. I think that Paranormal Borderline and to be able, Scott Katama, the producer, he said, listen, Dannion, because I'm really careful. You know the shows that I do, and I don't get myself caught up in controversy. I stay in controversy, but things I know about death and dying. But when I saw Neil Armstrong is going to say, look, I'm tired of it. I saw them on my mission. I saw them around. They took pictures. They've known about it. I was there. Edgar can tell. I know Mr. Mitchell, and he can say anything. Everybody has opinions about what might have been happening. There's a lot of information, and it's been proven that was that.
Well, Neil Armstrong has hinted in the past. I mean, he went to the White House, for heaven's sakes, and said there are things out there you can't imagine, things lying ahead you can't imagine. He's always hinted.
Well,
but
he tells it straight up,
as
straightforward as you'll ever hear it on Paranormal Borderline, and I'm really proud because these are the issues that once we start opening up our consciousness and we realize how controlled that we are, just like what you're talking about the money has to be able to devaluate the United States. They're going to have blue bills and, greenbacks, bluebacks, and redbacks. And that's so that our money can stay domestic, that you can't transfer your money unless you change it into the different kinds of currency. And, I mean, that was a part of the vision that I saw. But I really think that the biggest problem they're all going to have, especially those who try to control us and take our rights, like HMOs. I've got this big thing about HMOs and managed care, because I think it's literally the most horrendous thing that's going to happen to our moms and dads, and I fight against it. But they forget this, Art.
Boy, Dannion, I'm telling you, if Neil Armstrong says what you say he's going to say, it's going to blow everything wide open.
Tell me about it. And that's why I wanted to get it out, and I wanted to be it on, and I don't know if they know I'm telling everybody, but I wanted it to be on the Art Bell Show. I wanted it to be that I saw this, I was there. I have a part of what's going to be on the show is about me, but when I saw him, and what he does, I'm really proud to be a part, and I'm really proud to tell your listeners that if you want to see the most ultra-conservative guy...
Oh, hell yes.
Dannion, he doesn't get off on... I like Edgar Mitchell, but noetic science.
No, I hear you.
Went into doing some other kind of stuff.
You've easily topped me now. Did you see a tape of it, what they were going to show? Did you...
I read the transcript.
You read the transcript?
Because before I'll do a show, I have to look at it. I'm only interested in what has to do with dealing with people and how they die. And I don't do UFO stuff.
Right, I've got you.
But when I sat and I read this, I was staggered. Because, I don't know about all that stuff, but I know Barbara Marciniak, who wrote Bringers of the Dawn, and she's a really wonderful person. I think a lot of her, and I listen to what she says, and she's channeling this stuff from somewhere, but it's so much information. But when a guy who is straight, conservative, who never went off on one tangent, and because of the age of it that it is, and because he sees how much the lie, he's going to say it. He's going to say, hey, look, I saw him. The government knows about it. I don't know why they continues doing this, and he's going to, say, because he thinks that once they started covering up, that they couldn't stop, and they built their own little fiefdoms, and they have to self-perpetuate their agencies. And religion, the biggest thing is that religion, if there is a UFO, then what we have been taught in our religious nature becomes almost obsolete.
The magnitude of the news you're breaking right now is gigantic.
Absolutely it is.
All right.
And I didn't mean to get off on my subject matter, but...
Glad you did. I'm glad you did. Listen, let me read a fact to you. It's a good one. Mr. Bell, I'm very excited to hear Dannion Brinkley on your show tonight. Read his first book, thoroughly enjoyed it. Lent it to a friend, also enjoyed it. Got a question about one of the revelations Mr. Brinkley made in the book. I remember reading, but can't seem to find it in the book again. There would be a discovery in Egypt that would cause the world to rethink the origins of man. I recently saw a special on the Discovery Channel that theorized the Sphinx was the product of a civilization that was present prior to the Egyptians under the rule of the pharaohs. In fact, the Sphinx is 10,000 years older than previously thought. Is this that revelation come true?
It's the beginning of it. There is absolutely no question, none, that in the next 3 years, two things will come about. The Dead Sea Scrolls and the information that has been contained in them will be released, which will literally revolutionize Christianity. It will change the perspective of Christianity 1,000%. I don't want to get into that because I don't want religious wars. I don't want to break it down any faster than it's doing it to itself.
Yeah.
The other thing is they're going to discover, no question about it, archives, translatable, that literally begin to tell the history of this world that is going to completely alter the way we see ourselves. And this is in the next 3 years. In the midst of war, in the midst of threatenings of war, there's like 30, 35 wars going on. The Chinese, the Indians, and the Pakistanis are on a nuclear, every one of them is preparing to explode nuclear testing. They all, and the Pakistani-Chinese border, they're killing people every day there. So, this is the world that we're moving into, and what happens if we realize there are extraterrestrial? And what happens once we know that the history as we know it evolved to religious theocratic monarchies all the way to the basis of what we call our religious philosophy of the evolution of man? What's going to happen?
Anarchy.
We will have total breakdown.
Total breakdown. That's what I just said. Anarchy. It'll be complete anarchy.
God, won't that be exciting?
I'm convinced. Oh, Dannion. Listen, we've got to take a few calls. We've just got to do that. It's ringing off the hook here. So let's.
You think that means that people like us, Art?
I think that means you've blown them away. I'm sure you've blown them away. You've blown me away. I'm going to have to get a partial recording of this show for tomorrow night. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Dannion Brinkley. Where are you calling from, please?
Yes, I'm calling from Lexington, Kentucky.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I wanted to ask a question about something he'd mentioned earlier. I have a friend who has a serious medical condition. It's potentially life-threatening, and he had mentioned some alternative healing perspectives that he had. I wonder if he could elaborate on that a little bit.
All right. Do you want to tell us what kind of problem it is?
Well, he's got a multitude of viruses that the medical community can't do anything about.
All right, good.
The first thing that I would do is there's the National Institute for Health Office of Alternative Medicine, who are doing research in those kinds of programs. You can call your congressman and get the NIH OAM. There is another place that you can look that it's a magazine called Alternative Therapies, that the editor is Dr. Larry Dawsey, who is one of the best. And
well, if my understanding of the Kennedy-Katzenbaum bill is correct, then that would...
You're going to be put in jail if you do it.
Yeah, but you just said there was an NIH...
Office of Alternative Medicine.
What happens to that office?
They're trying to close it now with all their heart, mind, and soul. That's one of the things why I wanted to be on your show, so that people would call and write their congressman and tell them that they support two things, more than they support anything else that those fools are doing up there. And that's the Guarantee to Freedom to Access to Medical Treatment Act of 1995.
Right.
Which is I believe, without question, the most important single piece of legislation that will come in our lifetime. The other thing is to be alerted to the fact that House Bill 310311 was voted on, and it literally, I'll read to you what it says.
What is the number again? 303?
House Bill 310311. And that what is being debated today, they voted on it last Thursday. If everyone would call their congressman and senator and tell them that they are totally opposed to this is what it says. It will make it a criminal act for both the physician and his patient to practice alternative medicines not covered by approved medical establishment. That's taking vitamins, Art.
They're out of their minds.
Well, you know what? If we are out of our minds, if we don't call our congressman tomorrow and our senator, because the House passed it unanimously, as long as there is alternative therapeutic practices in place and we have access to them, they can never control our health care, which is what they're after. How you control the people And if everyone reads the Saved by the Light, the chip technology that will be implanted, that technology is being advanced to a point where a new deal with the Veterans Administration called TRICARE is issuing medical cards with chips in it that contain your entire medical history. And they're doing this the same way that if in Saved by the Light, I write it out. I said, this is what will happen. If I wrote this book in 92 and 93, it would still be a revolution in the predictions. I wrote this stuff down in 1975 and 76, recorded it on cassettes. I mean, I didn't just blow into town yesterday. But it is tomorrow. They're going to vote again on Tuesday, and we will lose our rights. So for the gentleman that we're talking to, alternative therapies and making a decision, I'll tell you, if he has a lot of viruses, there is two things that I would do. I would especially look at Qigong. We have light bodies. One of the things that I learned about being dead, quote unquote, which really never happens, you never die, was that we're composed of a series of light bodies. We have energy fields, and some people call them auras, but we have light bodies. So when a person gets a lot of disease or a lot of things that's happening to them, like viral infections, then they're light bodies, the essence of their ability to break down and assimilate by biochemical reaction, the necessary things to fight it off. Also, a lot of people have a lot of neural problems. That means that you have peptide bonds, that you have neurotransmitters that have insufficient mineral salts and trace minerals to actively cause the body to heal itself.
So that's what they're getting ready to do away with.
They have to stop it. If there's alternative therapies in place, that means you'll always have a place where you can seek your own treatment, and they will have to pay for it. They must stop it because it's too threatening and it's too natural. I mean, there is no longer the art of healing. There is the business of medicine. Do you realize, I've read both Medicaid and Medicare bills.
Look, I'm just a layman, Dannion, but it seems to me that this is the kind of thing that will produce an actual bloody, violent revolution.
No kidding.
Yeah, no kidding.
I
mean, how dare they?
That's what, Art, that's what I like about you and your listeners. And that's what I like, because these are my kind of people. I am in the world, as I look at it, to try to strengthen the final days, because guess who they're talking about? They're talking about our moms and our dads. They're talking about our aunts and uncles and their brothers and sisters. And for me, because I know what it's like to die, I know what it's like to face death, I know what it's like to see the other side, I know what it's like to come back. So I have brothers and sisters I've never met that's in the same place I am. And since I'm not afraid of it, and I do this every day, I'm around people every day, so I am really good and knowledgeable about all the tricks that they use, what they're trying to do, and how they're trying to do it to control us. And once they can control that with psychological natures of fear-based pattern psychology.
All right, hold it right there, Dannion. It was achieved through the basics. Medical care, access to medical care, food, a shelter. If they control those things, they control you. Man, what a night. Dannion Brinkley, just back from Peru by hours, is my guest, and he'll be right back.
From the Kingdom of Nye, you're hearing Dreamland with Art Bell. In the program, call toll-free 1-800-618-8255. 1-800-618, time caller, area code 702-727-1222. 702-795. This is the CBC Radio Network.
If we haven't called as much as we should have, I'll try and correct some of that this half hour. So much from Dannion Brinkley that cold still has me stopped cold. All right, back now to Dannion. A lot of things you say, I'm sure you realize, and I found this out these way, a lot of the things you're saying will make a lot of people really angry.
Good. That means they'll get off their butts and do something.
When people's deeply held faiths, or even cause them to, a lot of people react with absolute anger.
Oh, yeah, those are the ones I like the best.
Things that are not so easily put in a box, as it says.
That's what I like about you.
But, Dannion, people will call me sometimes during the week, and they will be just raging at me. I had one, probably the devil himself. I'm leading people down the path. Anything
Don't you
that,
love-
actually, I do.
They're the most delightful people. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that was it. I mean, I took a call.
Well,
the line said I was leading people to the devil and everything else.
Well, and when people ask me, they say, David, what about people who are skeptical and sometimes even stuff that you say? So I get along with them great, because if they think they cross a cynical, skeptical person, then they think they are. They should have met the Dannion Brinkley. When you start laughing, I said, well, do you mean to tell me that something that took forward been good to me because I've worked with
Dannion, I can tell you what they'd say. I can be one of them. They'd say, Dannion, those people, I'm not telling them about God, so you've got to be from the devil. Misleading these people. You're costing souls. I've had the calls. I've had the calls.
Would you get them to write me letters and tell them to, tell me. Oh, Post Office Box 1919, Aiken 729. If someone wants to write me, you write me good or bad. If you want the book, you give me a little mail order or cashier's check, and I'll put you on my mail and start putting out my newsletter when I quit this tour. And I'm not afraid of any of that. It's government and religions and institutions who have held us, without us allowing us to truly first that we're powerful spiritual beings. And one other thing, but it shakes them. They can't become gods and can't, when you get all in here, 6 months of life, to extend life 19 days. And if you get death, read them like I read them, doctors are getting a 20% increase in fees that they can charge. They're also listing the ban on if a doctor has a vested interest in a laboratory,
yes, I know.
then he can go ahead in your access to medical freedom, couldn't pay more money, and they're charging you a higher.
East of the Rockies, Dannion Brinkley. Hello, where are you, please? Oh, there.
You're committing spiritual adultery.
Dannion, you're...
Less than 8,000 people are volunteered to do hospice work.
Let's see if he's... Let's see. No, he bailed out. That's what they do. They call up, usually, and say you're the Antichrist, and hang up.
Well, then let's do this. Everyone has that right. We are powerful and mighty spiritual beings. You have a right to believe what you want to believe. I believe there's 2 ways to know for sure. There's the Dannion long course and the Dannion short course. The Dannion long course is to listen to Dannion and Art Bell with all our hearts and all our souls. It's just everyday guys with experiences and the ability to open our eyes and look and try to understand it. Then there's the short course, which is to take a screwdriver and stick in a 220 outlet. Call us back when you get up.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Dannion Brinkley.
Hello, this is Sharon from Santa Barbara.
Hi,
Sharon.
Hi, Dannion. I've just finished reading your 2 books, and I really enjoyed your information.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm very moved by your personal mission to create healing centers, and you've only just barely touched on that tonight. Where are you with that development?
I have one completely built, and I had till 92 in the books. I had to till 92.
Yes.
I have one completely built. I'm still working on the chamber, but I can't figure out what it does. And even when it came from the other side here, I still want to make sure it's just right. Now, I've taken people through it that are terminal, and I usually take them and the primary caregiver. I'm waiting for the research paradigm protocol before I really jump out and start ranting and raving.
In other words, it's going to be a while before you can put out a sign saying over 2 billion served.
Well, I believe that it'll move so fast once that people, if they can't stop alternative therapies, and I believe that these centers are the place and the point where the spiritual side has brought to bear that if they try to stop us from alternative therapies, then these centers will take on any other paradigm for bereavement, trauma recovery, grief recovery, and stress management for healthcare for professionals and caregiving for the caregiver.
All right, well, they can say what they want of you, Dannion, but I'll tell you this. Anybody who's done as much hospice work as you have done, sat by the dying, that many of them, I would be comfortable with your motivations before I would be many others. Believe me, Dannion.
And I do it, but you see, Art, it's what I do best. And I have recruited more hospice volunteers than anybody ever. And there's more people who go and do hospice work every day because of my workshops and seminars, and I get letters from all over the world. They call them Dannionites because I teach people. I don't try to compete with hospice. I said, look, go do hospice programs, and then I'll teach you how to get around it, because that where we are Yeah, us baby boomers. I just came off the mountain and have. We all have techniques in my books are where I have seen beings of light come to take someone. I have seen people saying mother's here, and I look at the end of the bed, and it doesn't look like mother to me, but I can see the difference in the light. And again, a way, if a person wants to be able to know there's a life after death and find the security, then hospice work is it. I think the greatest sin is all this crap that doctors do in religions and institutions to keep us fear-based keeps us from closure. I see events and
well, that's what I meant when I said they would say to you, you should be putting the fear of God into them.
I don't see them in those hospitals and nursing homes. And you know what gets me, Art? That wherever my religion is hospice. And where two or more gather in the name of Spirit, so shall Spirit be there. And I know that that's there because I've seen it. There is only one place in the history and the nature of the human experience where all three systems, mental, physical, and spiritual, in order for electricity or current to work in any form, you got to have a proton, electron, and a neutron.
Yeah.
You are the proton, you are the electron. The person leaving this world is the neutron, and the spiritual world is the proton. And when you understand that what's being created between you, that person, and the spiritual world in the breathing techniques that I teach, you are creating the sign of infinity. And where the worlds meet, where the spiritual world, the physical world, and the mental world meet is at that point. At that point, we have the capability of not only creating a means by which the spiritual world can move through that person leaving this world into you and out into this world to change it, it allows families to have closure. Once closure is in place, a lot of raping and murder and alcoholism and a lot of stuff stops because they have closure. Whereas the system in place now will not allow it. And that's the war I fight because I don't read it in the magazine. I don't form opinions about it because I'm sitting at home hiding. I'm in these nursing homes. I'm in these hospitals. I travel all over this country. I talk to people who are volunteers. I write books about it because we must do it as champions. We must seize control of our lives because it's our moms and our dads. And that's my fight, and that's what I'm after. And I know that there are people out in the group as me facing the same thing. And if I wasn't out there and I wasn't giving it everything I got, then I think that if I look at it, if there's somebody out there that has been through what I've been through, and they weren't out here helping me, then who in the hang does that person think they are?
Yeah.
I'm out here with my brothers and my sisters. I'm out here with Art Bell because he's doing everything in his power to alert the American people and the world who listens to him to the options that are their choices. I never hear about you trying to put some kind of dogma on someone,
no.
but you make the information available, and I'm glad I get to play with you so often, Art.
All right, thanks, Dannion. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Dannion Brinkley. Good evening.
This is Fritz from Phoenix. Damien very well said about the Neil Armstrong situation here, and I put two and two together. Edgar Mitchell probably found out that Neil Armstrong will make a statement on borderline, so he jumped the gun and went on Dateline.
That could be.
I agree because Neil, Edgar's wonderful. He's been through a lot of changes because of the profound spiritual effect it's had on him. Neil is very tight, very conservative, and he is just a guy that hit the age in his life where he's had enough of it.
Well, Fritz, you know and I know what Dannion said tonight is blockbuster news.
That's not blockbuster. It's a major event. If this is true, if the world doesn't react, the world is served what's going to come. If they don't react, what Neil Armstrong's going to say. And the next astronaut, I'm sure it's going to be Cooper. He will come out of the woodworks too. The domino's going to fall now.
Yeah, this would do it. I agree with Fritz.
It's May 7th on Paranormal Borderline at 9 p.m. on UPN. It's not going to be in the underground newspaper that you got to meet someone in a corner bar to get you a copy. It's going to go national, and it's that night, and I'm proud to be on the show myself.
It's suddenly, Dannion, like a snowball coming down the hill, gathering more and more weight and velocity as she comes down. It's really coming down the hill right now.
The same way with this issue, the same way with near-death experiences, the same way with alternative therapies. Here's what's going to happen. They will either let go and admit that they are wrong and admit that they've been hiding it and come up with a really good reason and, or just a crummy reason. I don't care. Let's get on to the truth. Let's get on to the issues. Let's get on to broadening our minds as the spiritual event moves toward us. And who cares? Or they are going to try to control it more, lie to us more, and deceive us more, and it's just which way they go determines how we go.
All right, Dannion, first-time caller line. You're on the air with Dannion Brinkley. Hello.
Hello, how are you, Art?
Just fine. Where are you?
I'm calling from above the hills in Jacksonville.
All right.
On the mighty KOPE.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for taking my call, and thank you for bringing this to the air.
You bet.
And my question is, first of all, we didn't get on with any visions that he might have had, any prophecy, anything that's going to come about. And I wanted to cover that if we get time. And second of all, I'd like to ask you, Mr. Brinkley, I'm involved right now in a group in our area. We live up here in the forest, and we're very concerned about the direction that this has taken. And I've lived here in the area for many years and have seen the forest practically disappear. And it
with the new Sessions Act that was just recently passed, Mr. Clinton sold the land for $1 to destroy the entire virgin timber.
That's right, and we're seeing that because we live here in it, and I've lived here in it for a long time, and I'm very concerned in it, and it wrenches me deep in my heart to
Well,
see
I
this
can tell
happening.
you something. That is just another part about what is happening to everybody. James Redfield, because see, I get involved in it. I don't hide from these things. There is a group that is in Washington, D.C. I'm working with James Redfield and Steven Seagal, the action heroes.
Oh, yes.
The person, Steven Seagal is a very good friend of mine, and so is James Redfield, the author of the Celestine Prophecy. And we have been looking at the salvage rider bill, and it's coming up again. And I have a copy of the information. It's called the First or Bradley bills. And if anybody would like to call to be able to join this business, it's 202-544-9219. What always amazes me is this. When everyone knows that how we breathe are these trees. Now what happens, you're going to have a lot of beautiful houses, but no air to breathe. And it's another part of the government being able, and I'm not really anti-government, everybody, because there's some good, hard-working, wonderful, decent people, but they're caught up in the system, trapped. They got to make those decisions because they have to feed their families. But we have to look at what's happening in our environment, in our health care, in the deception of the government, in the secret spies, and the big brother system, and the control of the monies. And it comes down to why are they doing this?
Dannion, we're about out of time. His other question was with regard to prophecy, and I don't see how he could have listened to tonight's program.
There's been 30 or 40 really good ones.
And not heard a lot of prophecy, close in at that, and a lot of shockers. Dannion,
tell him to write me, and I will send him copies. Tell people to send me 2 checks, and I'll send them. I'll get at Peace in the Light and Saved by the Light. I'll autograph them, and I'll send them to him if it takes me the rest of my life.
All right, it's Post Office Box. It's Dannion Brinkley, Post Office Box 1919, Aiken, A-I-K-E-N, South Carolina, zip code 29802, right?
$13.50 for each book, and please write on the envelope, Art Bell is wonderful.
Dannion, as always, it's a great pleasure. I'm glad we caught you at such a interesting moment in your existence.
Before you go, Art, please explain that to me. What is the difference?
I don't know. I sense a changed Dannion, an affected Dannion, by being in Peru, I'm sure.
Come go with me, Art.
Yeah,
I will walk you through a near-death experience. I'll take you to the Crystal Cities, and I have my program that I've designed, Enlightening Shamans, and I take them to people to a monastery that has the most spiritual energy. It relaxes you, gives you new focus and direction. And I'm good for another 6 months, and then I'll burn out, and I'll take myself right back down there.
Well, I'm past time, so it sounds.
You're welcome to come with me.
Sounds good.
Call Visions Travel in Los Angeles and tell them I sent you.
All right, Dannion, thank you.
Hey, Thank you, Art. I love you very much. And the listening audience, please tell everybody about Art Bell. Good night, Art.
Dannion Brinkley. That's it, everybody. We're out of time. I'm the deputy of tonight's show, and this really ought to be one that you should want to archive. Please call 1-800-917-4278. Let me give that again. 1-800-917-4278. 4278. To get my book, The Art of Talk, it's 1-800-864-7991. That's 1-800-864-7991. Till next week from the high desert. Good night.